welcome back to another episode of the Dicebearers podcast. I'm Chris.
And I'm Aleksa.
And we are jumping into the tin cans of the game. Gondor itself. Minas Tirith.
Yes. Back with the most irregularly scheduled podcast you've ever seen in your life. It is scheduled, just not regularly.
We meet
We meet monthly to say we're going to record this month. And then 2 months later, we've scheduled it.
Yeah, that sounds right? Yeah.
Alright, let's dive straight into it. What do we think of the models for Minas Tirith, Chris?
Well, some of the models are really, really good. And some of the models are not.
Oh, the opposite.
Yeah.
Alright, if you do the inverse of what you just said,
Yes.
you get the right answer, yeah.
All the new stuff, like everything that's come out from Gondor War onwards, has been phenomenal. And I think all of the Gondor releases from Gandalf, like the new Gandalf through to all the new Rangers that have come out and all that sort of stuff has been wonderful to see and really, really top-notch quality. But there's also models like Rangers of Gondor in the mix.
Yeah, they're in the mix.
The baseline warriors even, there's a few hits and mostly misses. And their sculpting as well.
Gondor looks okay from afar and very quickly turns to mush.
But I will say there is something really, really nice about just seeing that like tin canny look come to life in a really flavorful way. Especially if you theme your list in a really cool way around some of those profiles. I've seen some gorgeous conversions and even just really, really exquisite paint jobs to really make this army pop and feel like a unified force.
Yeah, Gondor armies look good. Gondor models do not.
And that's a very good way of saying it, yes. I think one thing that really lends itself well to this army is the heroes are so standouty and iconic relative to the rest of the army. Like, even if you have no context of the movies or anything like that, like, you can just tell who the people in charge are. Which isn't always the case with some armies. For example, Hunter Orcs is an army that
They have character models?
Literally, I get so confused on them sometimes. And I feel really bad because I end up asking people like 5 or 6 times throughout the course of a game where heroes are. I've done this with Thranduil's Halls as well with Palace Guard captains, actually. No, I think
That's fair.
The amount of times I think I played 4 people now in like an assassination or fog of war where I've dead set had to stop the game and be like, I actually just don't know what my target is.
Wait, stop.
Where's your heroes?
Who's the captain? No, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, but like Gondor, I don't think you'll ever have that issue.
You can tell who Gandalf is, you can tell who Aragon is, Boromir's got the dumb flag.
Even like the Ranger captains, they look so distinct.
Especially the new ones. The new captains
the new
look
ones
great.
just look phenomenal relative to the other models. Even if you don't put the extra terrain bits and pieces on their bases, they still just pop, and I love it. So they're good.
They do. All right, let's jump into the list overview. So, what are our strengths, Chris?
Well, I think your biggest strength in this list is probably just the sheer blunt force variety of heroes you can bring. That kind of like a Mordor army, just bring different tools based on what you're actually playing with, basically. All those heroes do different things, right? You also have a really nice selection of troops that you can bring alongside them. Some of those troops are significantly better than others for the points cost, but you can kind of feel like you have that toolbox, right? You can put something in to fill every gap in your list. It may not be as good as someone else's tool specifically, but you have enough tools to make up for that. And I think the warrior and hero selection just works, right? And mixing that with a really high defense value means the heroes, which we've already said, pop, look good, and you tend to want to play 3 heroes with Gondor. High defense means that your boys stay alive to let the heroes do the killing.
That's it, yeah. I mean, Gondor Knights are your only real hitter as far as troops are concerned. Everyone else is stuck at strength 3. There's no axes, there's no two-handing, there's none of that. You just hit at strength 3. You maybe got some stabs in there or some feints if you're lucky. And that's about it.
Yeah, literally, right? Yeah, what
You're stuck at fight 3, hey.
Well,
That's the other thing.
Exactly.
As we talk about it, you're strength 3, you're also baseline fight 3. Now, you have answers to that. You can bring fight 4 through either your spearmen in the form of your elite choices or through Boromir's banner, letting you get all the way up to fight 5. But at the end of the day, if your synergies fall apart, your army can very quickly fall to a bunch of pockets of fight 3 that aren't doing much. And like we said, your core troops, they're not killing stuff quickly. So there's a very decent chance that if things turn into a grind and your sort of formation starts to fall apart, you're kind of stuck at this, pockets of fight 3, pockets of fight 4, maybe like one guy's at fight 5, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And if your opponent gets a chance to pull apart those key pieces, a hero or a really nicely placed banner or a hero who is a banner, things like that, suddenly a huge part of your list just falls out from underneath you.
Let's talk about the army bonus, Chris. What do we get for being Gondor?
Well, you, my friend, are man of Gondor. Whatever comes through that gate, you will probably stand your ground, but may not charge.
You might also not make it back.
Yeah, that's also true. There was that one guy right at the front.
Oh, he stood his ground against that troll. Not for long.
Yeah. So, models in the list who have the Gondor keyword, which is all bar, I think, literally one model?
Peregrin probably doesn't have it.
Yeah, probably him as well, actually. So, bar for like one or two models, gain +1 courage as long as you're in a green alliance. It's great. It's nice. It's handy. Doesn't make a huge difference in a lot of games. Well, depends if you're breaking or not. Or,
Courage 4 army white is nice to have.
it's nice to have. It's not huge.
It also counteracts Harbinger. That's the actual
And I think
true
that's probably the
thing
biggest
it
thing.
does.
To stay at Courage 3, to keep that 7 as the roll for Harbinger, is probably the biggest difference it makes. But even then, I find it's a reliable rule. It's not going to be a game changer most of the time, unless you roll all 7s and no, like, 8s.
It's just a generally
Yeah, right?
useful rule.
Yes.
It's not going to change how you play, but it's going to come up, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, if it just means you pass like 2 extra courage tests. I mean, a Warhorn is worth 30 points, allegedly. So, I mean, you get 30 free points in your list is one way to look at it. Now, would you always include a Warhorn? Probably not, but you know, you can't disagree with the fact that you're getting some amount of value out of your army bonus.
And I think that's it, right? To get the effect of the Warhorn plays really well into Gondor, because most good armies do have access to Warhorns, and just not needing to pay for one.
That's it. You don't have to think about it. There's no decision. You just get it.
There's no hiding at the back of the board. There's no going prone in a watchtower.
There's no worrying about a Nazgul black darting you in the head.
Yeah, there's literally none of that, right? And so for that reason alone, they're useful. And it's gonna help, right? It's by no means a bad roll. In fact, I think it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
But it's not
It's just
very
not flashy. That's it. It's not very flashy. As anything.
Yeah.
Right, Chris. Someone who is flashy. Let me tell you about our boy, Aragon King Elessar, for 225 points.
Nice and cheap, yeah.
Man, Gondor, infantry, hero of legend. He's got a movement of 6, a fight of 6, a pretty solid stat. 3+ to hit, though I think he's given up the bow at this point. Strength 4, defense 7, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, and courage 6. With 3 might, read infinite, 3 will, and 3 fate. With heavy armor and Andril Flame of the West. Now, what does Andril Flame of the West do? Well, it is an elven-made hand-and-a-half sword. In addition, when making strikes with Andril, Aragon never requires more than a 4 for his 2 wound rolls. Note that if Aragon uses Andril as a 2-handed weapon, he will still get the bonus of +1 to wound, meaning he will wound on 3s. Is wounding people on 3s good?
Yeah, it's okay.
I think so.
Ask Azog, I don't know.
And then for heroic actions, we have everything.
Except accuracy and
Channel, yeah. I like how he loses accuracy. So yeah, he's got Heroic Resolve, Heroic March, Heroic Strike, Heroic Strength, Heroic Defense, and Heroic Challenge. He has an Armored Horse of 15 points, which you will take.
Every time.
And he's also a Horse Lord, making that Armored Horse even better, because now his horse has Fate, which is good. He's also a Mighty Hero, giving him 1 might a turn to spend as he pleases every turn for all eternity. Infinite might, good.
Yes.
And finally, he has Stand Men of the West. It's a passive ability. Friendly models within 6 of Aragon count as being in range of a banner. This is better than a 6-inch banner because it's passive, so if he's prone, you still get a banner.
And it's not restricted to keywords either, which is
Correct.
fantastic. Yes.
Yes, it's all models, so you don't have to worry about, is this a Fiefdoms guy, or is this a Rohan guy? You'll get the buff.
It buffed.
So what do you think about
really...
What do you think of Aragon, Chris?
Aragon is phenomenal. However, I find he's a very expensive model, and you have to find ways to make him worth it. I think if you put him into 2 models a turn, call your hero at combat for free, charge another 2 models, or get charged because you're not spending your move off, call a combat, kill 2 more models, and you do that throughout the course of a game, he's probably not worth the points of investment.
No, he needs to kill a character. At least one.
He needs to either kill a character, he needs to find that flank and get them.
Or a monster. He's really got to kill him.
Oh, he's phenomenal at
monsters?
Yeah.
Oh, see that troll? Send him in.
Yes.
Maybe he lied to you.
I think in isolation, this profile, if this was in, I think, some list that didn't have this type of big hero, he would be phenomenal. A first pick almost every single time. The problem is he sits in a list with other big heroes that can do similar sorts of things to him.
Really, there's just the one other big hero who is just so insane and is cheaper.
Yes, and that's, I think, the big reason why you don't see Elessar played more. I think if this was a 220-point model with the horse, I'd see a very clear argument to bring him in a lot of different lists.
I still think there is an argument. I think you need to think about why you're bringing him and play to him. And I think if you do that, he's let's say it this way, he's not necessarily worse than Boromir, but he's definitely harder to use than Boromir. Boromir and Aragon, if they do the same things in a game, generally Boromir will just be better because +1 fight is such a huge buff. And 6 might is ludicrous. The ability to just... Sure, Aragon will have more might over the course of a game, but the ability to just pour it out when you need it is so valuable.
Yeah.
And 3 turns of calling free marches is great and all, but does that really matter that much as opposed to just blowing 4 might and just taking Azog's head off or something along those lines, right?
And I think that's it, right? Aragon can be explosive, don't get me wrong, but doesn't have the same blunt force trauma that you can multiply across a 6-inch battle line with a +1 fight value.
Exactly.
Also, right?
That's it.
If Aragon finds the ways in, Aragon is probably phenomenal every single game he plays in, right? But if Aragon doesn't find that way in, or he gets blocked out or shut down early or something like that happens to him, he won't keep your line fighting any differently other than just a banner roll, which if you're predominantly fight 3 and 4, you're on par with other armies. There'll be a lot of armies that'll just simply outclass you and walk into you and just win off the fact that they've walked forward.
The difference that having, effective 3 dice with the banner involved at higher fight compared to equal fight is just huge.
Exactly. And I think that's the problem.
It's effectively a +1 to your roll, is what it effectively is. Imagine if Boromir's banner said +1 to your dual roll, up to a 7.
Yeah. Well, that's what fight banner feels like.
That's what it is. Well, that's if you're matching. That's what it is, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're below, let's say you're fighting elves, you go from 4 to 5, you're just giving them a -1, effectively.
Yeah. And I think that's huge to think about, right?
I mean, it's what the Shade does, right?
Yeah.
Think about the Shade and how impactful that is.
I mean, how many years did a Shade and Corsairs terrorize the meta, right?
Too many.
Yeah, and I think this is that type of problem, where Aragon could be so many things, but there's a Boromir on the list.
But before we get to Big Bozza, Chris, tell us first about Gandalf the White.
Yes. So Gandalf is a wizard, infantry, hero of valor. So he's not Gondor, so he won't get the +1 army bonus.
But he needs it.
No, he's pretty good on courage anyway. He's 220 points for the privilege. He's a move 6. He is a fight 5 with a 4+ shoot fire. That makes no difference. He has a strength of 4, defense of 6, and 2 attacks, which is really bloody good. The defense of 6 especially is so nice to see on Gandalf. In the previous edition, he was D5. Now he's defense 6, and I love it. 3 wounds, courage of 7. So, again, probably doesn't need the +1 courage, right? He is 3 might, 6 will with a little asterisk. I have no idea why that's there. And 3 points of fate. He has a staff of power with another little asterisk next to it, which must mean that gives him a 3-point will every time.
I think that's might be what it does.
That's what it does.
You might be a good wizard.
No, not possible. He also has Glamdrin, which is a elven-made hand-and-half weapon that will give him +1 strength when he makes strikes, effectively making him strength 5 when he attacks people,
which is
strength
good.
4 when being hurled. Cool. And he also has one of the elven rings, Naya, which will give him a reroll of his fate rolls. So suddenly, this D6 3 fate 3 wounds model is a really hard model to take off the table.
75% success rate on your fate roll. That's
literally
good.
Right. I look at this model as a 5 wound model every single game.
It really is.
Sometimes, and more than likely, because you'll invest a point of might into it, a 6 wound.
Yeah, that's exactly. You can easily make him actually quite tanky and a big commitment required to kill him.
Now he can take Shadowfax for 20 points. Shadowfax is an auto-include model. Let's be honest here. Shadowfax is a weird profile for a mount. So it's movement 12, doesn't have attack, which means it won't stay around if Gandalf dies, but it does have its own might, will, fate store. So it has 0 might, 2 will, and 1 fate, which means if someone throws a magical power that can, for example, knock prone Gandalf as a model, you can elect whether Shadowfax or Gandalf will resist the roll. And having 2 points of will on Shadowfax can just be phenomenal for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, just roll it.
Unfortunately, you can't combine the profiles and give Gandalf 4 fate, for example. But it's still nice to have, and even though Shadowfax is only 1 wound, the 1 fate is nice, right?
Yeah, it's a
Could be handy.
1.5. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
exactly. Again, you can't use Gandalf's might on the fate roll for the horse, as far as I know. But
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a very.
it's a weird one. I've never played it as that.
No, but you need. Yeah, I don't think so. Considering you need a horse lord to fate for your horse, I assume you would need horse might to.
I just don't know. I just don't have a good answer for you.
'Cause
But
I'm
in
not-
saying that, you're using... Well, because it's not Gandalf's point of fate, so you can't use Gandalf's might to
I think that's how it
adjust
works.
it, right?
I think that's how it works.
But if it's worded as around the model, then I guess not.
No,
But
because
I've not read that
you're
before.
striking specifically the horse.
Yeah.
It's there's a distinction between model and individual part of model when you target
Yeah,
them.
mounted rider, right? Yeah.
That's why you can't use the fate of the rider unless
Exactly.
you have
Yeah.
a sword.
But again, if I'm wrong, please, someone absolutely find me. And, well, why not, right?
Can you tell us how many spells he has? Have
he
you
has a lot
counted
of them. He has 2 spells. That's it.
Yeah. So what? Fortify spirit and strengthen will.
Yeah.
That's it. Alright, got it.
So he does have 3 heroic actions before I get to the spells.
Yeah.
He can do Resolve, phenomenal. He can do Channeling, and he can do Strike. Probably the 3 things that you'd expect a spellcast like this to have, right? And he's really good for this. He's got Blinding Light as one of his spells on a 2+. He's got Immobilize on a 12-inch range, again on a 2+. Terrifying Aura on a 2+. Command on a 3+, 12-inch range. Fortify Spirit is a 3+ as well, as is
Strength of Will.
Strength of Will is a 3+. All of his spells are 12-inch range, where the range is applicable. So it's phenomenal so far that he's got so many good spells at that 3+ cast
Yeah,
rate.
yeah.
And if you really want to go all out for only a 4+, you can do a Sork Blast, you can do a Banishment, and you can do your Staff is Broken. Those was given. 2 of those are very, very minute in their chance you can use them.
When they're applicable, they're
Are
huge.
phenomenal, right? Like the amount of times I've seen a Gandalf into Saruman fight, and just Saruman goes like 4 dice Sork Blast, Shadowfax resist on the 6, and then Gandalf turns around and goes, no more staff.
I played
Yeah.
that Madril once. Oh my god, it was such a. I played the Saruman side. It was so like nerve wracking. Anytime Gandalf was anywhere near me, I was like, don't touch my stick.
Yes, literally, right? And I think people look at this 12-inch range and all these spells and go, that's okay. For 240 points, though, that's quite a lot. Well, you have a 12-inch moving horse, which means you have a 24-inch effective threat range all the time. And I think people always forget that Shadowfax is that quick. And it catches so many people off with just the angles Gandalf can just snake in and out of combats because of that extra movement. What are your thoughts on this model as a whole?
So Gandalf's really good. I've thought a lot about Gandalf versus Saruman because I played a lot of Saruman, and so Saruman is objectively a better caster than Gandalf because he
Yes.
gets the rerolls built in.
Yeah.
But Gandalf has a lot more variety in spells. So Saruman is a higher damage output character essentially because you can spend fewer dice to get more successful rolls. So over the course of a game, he'll successfully cast more spells, assuming you go through all of your will on both characters.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have things like Blinding Light. He doesn't have the support stuff like Fortify Spirit and Strength and Will, and he doesn't have stuff like Banishment or Your Stuff is Broken. So Gandalf has more utility. And the thing that I've always found tricky with Gandalf the White is the sort of desire to use him in combat because you're paying points to be 2 attacks and Strength 5.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of the contradiction in that, in a sense, in that you want to charge him in, but if you charge him in, if you lose prior and lose the move off, now you can't cast spells.
Yes.
And so that's to me the tricky part. Now, obviously, you have Terrifying Aura, which helps with that, but if someone has like 3 models that can charge you, he'll toss all 3 and he'll pass his set, one of those character
He's
checks.
going to pass one of them.
And once he passes, you've got 240 points sitting there doing diddly squat.
Yeah.
Which
I
sucks.
think something that is handy to note, though, the 3 dice Terrifying Aura into some matchups could be really big. For example, I've done that into a Mordor matchup before.
Yeah, if you play a Courage 2 army, you just do the 3d6 and you just laugh.
Yes. And I was quite lucky that I brought him to Equilibrium on model count, a turn that I didn't have priority.
Yeah.
And it caused his Orcs go Courage 2 to match me, and he failed, I think 4 Courage tests.
At that point, you probably... It's just 3d6 take the lowest?
Take the highest dice out of the equation.
The highest dice, yeah.
Yeah,
Take
it's
the lowest.
really nice to have that. It cost me one at the start of the game to do it, but it meant that there was a turn where Gandalf didn't even get charged and was in a phenomenal spot because all the models that failed were the ones that could have played Gatekeeper to keep his hero and banner safe.
That's it, yeah. So I think, in low courage matchups, Terrifying Aura and putting Gandalf in aggressively definitely has a lot of play. I think in high courage matchups, you have to be really careful when you commit him. You kind of do have to commit him at some point.
Yes.
But if you can do something like, if you spot an angle on a hero, you Sword Blast him. If you succeed the knockdown, then you put Gandalf in. You call the strike. You two-hand glamoring. And you just go.
And you go all in on it, right?
That's it.
You effectively get to strike at strength 7 at that point, right?
Well, yes. You're striking at strength 7. You've got 4 attacks, which is decent. And they're prone, so they can't fight. Even if you lose, you're not at risk. So
I think Gandalf works the best when he sits on the edge of a battle line.
Yes,
if he's the corner of one half of your battle, or one line of your battle line, and you have the rest of your heroes scattered throughout the rest of your battle line, I think that is when Gandalf is at his best. Because he can throw prone the enemy hero on the same flank as him by sword blasting the spear spot into them, and then just hero combat straight into that hero. And it doesn't matter even if they fight 6, because all you're gonna the worst case scenario is that hero just stands back up.
That's it.
And Gandalf has the chance to, as you just said, flash kill most things in the game. Like strength 5 is phenomenal. Anything short of a dwarf hero is
he wins on 5s without even two-handing.
Exactly. And if you choose to two-hand at that point,
4s, which is pretty good.
Sometimes even 3s. It just works, right? Yeah. And so I think Gandalf does run this weird hybrid mix, and I think it's that tricky problem, right? Where if you only play him as a combat character, he's pretty bad. If you only play him as a wizard, he's pretty bad.
He's like an 180 point model with 40 points of combat attached to him.
Exactly, right? And I think he needs to make that 40 points up throughout the course of the game.
Yes.
And chucking up a blinding light because you go this is what I do every single game isn't enough to make that worth it.
That's the thing. You compare him to where Saruman is baseline. Saruman is 190 on the horse. 50 point differential for, in terms of damage output, a worse caster.
Yes.
So you look at that straight up and you just see that you need to, the points are somewhere, and the answer is Glamdring and an extra attack.
Yeah.
And 12-inch move.
Yes. But, and D6.
I think Saruman's D5. Probably. That sounds right.
Because Gandalf the Grey is D5.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. I think Radagast is probably D1. I don't know.
D4, I would imagine. Right. But all right. So Gandalf, pretty good, but you got to work for it with him.
Yes. All right. Now, take me to the best character in the game.
All right, listen up, ladies and gentlemen. We have Denethor, Steward of Gondor, a steal, a bargain. You'd be a fool not to take him at 35 points. All right, hear me out. My man is of Gondor, and he is an infantry hero of valor. You know what that means, ladies?
Wait, 35 points for hero of valor?
35 points. What? You can bring 15 bodies to the battlefield.
Wow, that's amazing.
And you think, well, okay, surely he sucks in combat. He's just an old man.
Yeah.
No, buddy, he's fight 5.
Wait, what?
Strength 4. D5. Yeah. Can you tell I play Corsairs? 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5. But that's courage 6, because guess what? He's a Gondor man.
That's true.
No, mate. Who needs it? 3 will, plenty. Fate, you're not going to lose a fight with this guy. My man comes with armor and a sword, and special rule, broken mind, don't mind it. Start of every turn before priority is rolled. The controlling player must take courage test for Denethor. If the test is passed, all is fine.
Yeah, cool, move on. That's the end of the
If the test is failed, Denethor is controlled by the opposing player until the end of the phase. While under the control of the opposing player, friendly models cannot target Denethor with string attacks or magical powers that cause damage and may not strike him if they beat him. If Denethor is part of the same army as Denethor will automatically pass these tests as long as Boromir is alive. Should Boromir be slain, then Denethor will automatically fail the next courage test he must take. Don't let Boromir die, idiot. And finally, the rule of Gondor is mine and no others. This man is a straight G. He owns Gondor. And what that means is he's always your leader unless you bring Aragon.
I'm surprised you can even bring Aragon on the same list as this clan.
Yeah, I'm surprised you can do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun. It's like alternate timeline where Aragon just shows up, Denethor's like... Alright, whatever. What do you think of Denethor, Chris?
I love this model. I think he's absolutely wonderful. His new sculpt as well is jaw-dropping.
Oh, it's a stunning one.
This guy, for 35 points, you don't get might. Who cares, right?
That's it, that's what I'm saying.
If you can bring a stable battle line and play your macro game well enough to not care about winning or losing the move, then it doesn't even matter having might for those move offs.
Plus, you have plenty of in this list. You have plenty of ways to have a lot of might. Might is cheap in Gondor,
and you have so many minor heroes, independent heroes, fortitude heroes with names, so they're 3 might randomly. Like, you have so many ways, like you said, to bring might into the table. Like, either you just want to bring a model count into the list, for 35 points to bring 15 bodies, like, you just can't go wrong with it, right?
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
Actually, just insane.
He's just actually really good for his points.
He is the cheapest hero of valor in the game, to my knowledge.
Well, that sounds right.
Yeah, like, it's wonderful to be able to bring that. And with your base warriors being on the cheaper side for the most part, with everything bar your elites being under 10 points,
yep,
it's pretty nice to be able to just bring, like, this guy and 15 models for about 180 points.
Yeah, the thing he does for you is he lets you be flexible depending on what you're building. So you won't always bring him. If you can bring, like, you know, a named character with 3 might and a special ability who costs 55 points over him, that's probably better. But you might not then have enough space in your warbands, or you might not have enough points to fill your warbands. And in that case, well, drop him down to 35 points, bring a couple of extra goons, and you're golden. It just lets you mess around, and if you want to bring more models, you just bring him instead of a more expensive character.
Yes, and I think you've nailed it on the head there, right? Like, if you can't quite figure out your warband spacing, and you want to keep that model count higher, but you've brought 2 big heroes, or you've brought some, like, a Trebuchet or something like that into your list as well, and you're like, wow, I'm playing 650 points with 22 models. What's happened?
Yeah.
All I bought was Aragon, Ingold, and Hurin. I just don't get where my points have gone. I consider maybe swapping an Aragon for a Denethor and see what happens
Hurin,
to your list.
And you get like 50 points of just swapping Hurin.
Yeah, even something like that, right? Like, and suddenly you just get
5 to 6 extra bodies, yeah.
And that could bring you close to that 30 mark, which means Aragon can go late game and turbo through the rest of the game. Or you could swap out, like, those 3 heroes and bring a Boromir with a lance and this guy, and suddenly, like, you still have a really effective front line because you have the body count to match it.
That's it.
And Boromir can go on a tear, and because he's not restricted to the banner ball with a lance, you can just unwind 6 points of might through the enemy's back.
Rocket some dude's head off. Yeah. That's it. So yeah, Denethor, I think he's very easy to overlook, but he's actually quite an interesting pick. Now, Chris, tell me about this next one. Why is he an interesting pick?
Well, he's interesting because he does have the Gondor keyword.
Oh, that is neat.
Yeah. So, Peregrin Took, Guard of the Citadel, indeed. He has 25 points. He is a Hobbit, Gondor, Infantry, Hero, Independent Hero. He is Movement 4, which is absurd. He should be Movement 12. But I digress. He's Fight 3.
Quite impressive. He's on par with all the other soldiers of Gondor.
Like, he's as trained, hear me out, he's as trained as a dude with a pitchfork who's saw bard. That's pretty good.
Well,
right?
he's also on par with a veteran of Osgiliath.
No. I want to go back to the other army. That's Fight 3 for no reason, right?
Fight 5 with the child.
Yeah.
My hobbits fight 5 and move 6 inches.
Yeah. He is Fight 3 plus shoot value, which actually can help. His strength is 2. That's impressive. His defense is 4. 1 attack, 1 wound, courage of 4. He is 1 might, 1 will, and 2 points of fate. However, he has armor and a dagger and heroic defense. Surprisingly, heroic defense on this profile has been a roadblock for me in so many games where I've just, like, multi-charged into this model. And I had a Saladin, right? I was like, I'll call it combat. And hit Peregrin and, like, a warrior of Gondor, right? And Peregrin goes, I'm going to call it defense. Watch this, right? And it's either Saladin rolls a 4 high, right? And loses the fight, loses his horse. Or, the even better one, I win the fight, kill the first guy on, like, a 6, and then roll my other 6 dice with rolling 1s, and don't get a single 6 to win Peregrin. And I just bounce. I'm like, yeah, sick.
He also has an Elven Cloak for 5 points.
Which I don't think you'd take very often.
I don't think it's very useful in this army.
The problem is he's 25 points, right? Like, 25 points, you don't want to pay for 5 points.
Another 20% of his initial price.
Yeah, just for the sake of... he's such a small profile, just literally stand next to the building and he's hidden. Like, it doesn't matter.
You can't see him in most fences anyway.
Yes. The one thing I would say that I really do like about this model, he's inbuilt resistance to magic.
Yeah.
That has surprisingly come up a couple of times with, like, a Rat the Burnin.
Yeah, it's actually interesting.
And things like that. Like, he just randomly works with stuff like that.
Rolling 2 dice to resist is pretty good. For free, basically.
2 dice with a might point compared to you don't make a roll.
Yeah.
It's huge, right?
I don't like that.
He has Throw Stone as well, which I don't think is going to be that relevant. Range 8, strength of 1. Cool, you have 1 turn maybe you use it before combat hits and he dies, but that's okay. Look, for 25 points, I'd consider bringing him.
Yeah, he's like cool, I got 20 points and one warband slot left, and I guess I'll drop a guy and make him Peregrin, and it's slightly better.
Yeah, and I think here's the question, right? Would you bring this model, or would you bring another banner? Depending on your list.
Well, if I got one banner, I'd probably bring a second banner. If I got two banners, I would not bring a third banner. If I have Boromir, I wouldn't bother anyway.
Exactly, right? So if you have like a Boromir list, or even an Aragon list, I can see put there. Peregrin could be a really cute thematic choice, right?
Yeah, if you've got a lot of magic, like AoE magic around, it's an interesting call.
If magic's in the meta, this guy
has to be AoE magic. He's not gonna get black darted.
You never know. Some people are spiteful about
Although, you could also make him your... you could be an interesting pick for, like, Fog of War defend hero.
I think that's it as well, right? Because he can be just as clutch as a little, like, siege veteran sitting on the back of the board.
Or my children.
Yeah, or like one of the random children in Lake Town, like, just for no reason.
Good luck!
Yeah.
How many reasons do you want to commit to this child that might be your target?
Yeah. Well, there's the other problem, right? But yes, Peregrin is, he's alright.
Alright.
I like Pippin. I think he's okay, actually.
Yeah?
I've come full circle in my own thought in the last 30 seconds. I reckon I'd bring Pippin in more lists than not. If I can afford it and I'd already have a second banner.
Cool.
That's my criteria.
You
there you go.
You done?
Yeah, tell me about Boromir.
Alright, Boromir, he's alright. So, Boromir, Captain of the White Tower. For 160 points, you get Man, Gondor, Infantry, Hero of Valor. Move of 6, a fight of 6.
Question mark?
Strength of 6. Only, well... temporarily 6. It might go higher.
Subject to change. Right?
3 attacks, 3 wounds, and courage 6. 7. 6 might, 3 will, 3 fate. Heavy armor, sword, and the Horn of Gondor. Alright, so the Horn of Gondor. So before you even spend any points, Boromir can blow the horn at the start of a fight if he is outnumbered by 2 to 1 or more. The enemy combatant in the fight with the highest courage value makes a courage test. If the test is passed, the combat is fought as normal. If the test is failed, Boromir automatically wins the fight and can strike blows against his enemies.
Like, just randomly want to fight.
So what courage is a troll, Chris?
3.
Okay, cool. So it's like a 50-50 when you charge a troll and an orc that the troll just doesn't get to fight. Hey, you know what's great? Even if the troll's higher fight value than Boromir, it doesn't matter if you can't roll a 7 on 2d6.
It's true, yeah.
And his heroic actions: strike, strength, and defense. So, I mean, he's got strike. The other two, defense is solid, strength is kind of useless. The only thing he's missing is march. He doesn't bring everything for you, unlike some big 160-point heroes on
But
pigs.
there are so many ways to counter that, it doesn't even...
It's fine in the list. It's just kind of funky. Finally, his options are the Banner of Minas Tirith for 40 points, a horse for 10, a lance for 5, and a shield for 5. So, what is the Banner of Minas Tirith? It is a banner with a range of 6. Already great.
Yeah.
Additionally, Boromir and all friendly Gondor warrior models within 6 gain a +1 bonus to their fight value.
So what does that do to Boromir?
So it means he's fight 7.
Oh, that's interesting. And it makes your Citadel Guard and Rangers and...
Fight 5.
Wow, okay.
Yes.
So we're playing with an elven army now.
Yes, correct.
Interesting. Carry on.
So 40 points for a 6-inch banner, if you ignored the second half of that text, would probably be not bad. Also, he has no penalty when fighting, but he can't carry a lance. But no penalty for fighting. So, for 40 points, if someone just said, this army list has a 6-inch banner for 40 points, you'd say, that's pretty good. I might consider that over a 25.3-inch banner, because you're doubling the range for not double the cost. And then also +1 fight. Because why not?
Yeah, and I think that's the real kick, right? If Aragon and Boromir provided the +1 fight, I think Aragon would be in a lot more lists than he currently is. But because Boromir with a banner exists, providing fight 5 to anything that's fight 4, and turning your baseline warriors into fight 4 troops that actually make a difference on the fight scenes now, like, it's so hard to look past Boromir and bring other big heroes in this.
Also, on a horse with the banner, he's still less points than either of the big heroes before they get upgrades.
215 points to go with the banner, shield, and the horse. That's crazy how cheap that is. Like, that's actually just crazy how cheap that is. And, like, even if you go the other way with it, like, what is it, one...
Don't discount cheapo missile Boromir. Like, if you're playing 500 points, unironically, just bring cheapo Boromir and run people down.
Boromir with a lance and hero.
For 180 points, like, that's output. That's output.
It's scary, yeah.
Like,
and with 6 points of might, it doesn't even matter if he's got a banner near him. He can brute force to anything.
That's it.
Like, yeah, I think Boromir, if you want to play for the tin cans, winning the fights, doing the work, Boromir with a banner is the way you play the game.
Well, it's a lot of it's about ranges as well. Ranges are what enables that by being 5/5.
Well, and they enable it so well because they also bring the bow, right?
That's it.
I think if that's the type of list you want to play, Boromir is kind of the model you pick around. And if you don't want to play a ranger heavy list, I think that's when you can actually look to something outside of Boromir to make that difference matter. But again, like Boromir with the lance and without the lance is its own argument.
Look, we all know Boromir is good. We don't need to explain to you why Boromir is good.
What I would like to try and explain though is why Boromir with a lance is good.
Because 6 might with +1 to wound is deranged.
Yes. And I think it's crazy to think about the fact that this is a model with strike and defense with 6 points of might. Like, even if he doesn't even want to call move-offs for a turn or two, and let your 3/1/1 on the other side of the battle line to him, spend one might for the combat, one might for the move, and then Boromir gets charged by a dude, and Boromir calls a combat, and you're like, oh, dang, do I have to call a safety strike now? Or do I need to try and call a combat to get out of dodge? Suddenly I'm out of might and it's going to be irrelevant what I do again. Or do I try and save it for a move off? Which if I lose, I'm now out of might and Boromir has 4 points of might left to do whatever he wants with. That's what makes Boromir scary when you put him with a lance. And I think, yes, the banner is good, but I think going from fight 6 to 7 on Boromir alone really doesn't make that big of a difference.
I mean, it depends what you're fighting, really. That's the thing. Against, Fight 6 is a very rare number. It's basically just dwarf heroes and elf captains.
Literally, right? Like, it's... I think literally just that, right? And the odd...
there's Ratabi. Ratabi is 6.
Yeah, a couple of the Eastlings.
The Dragon Emperor is 6.
Yeah.
That's about it.
One of the ring rates are 6 randomly. Like,
the Dark Marshal
Cave
6.
Trolls. Like, there's a couple of...
Fight 6 is a very rare number. It's like 5 is the most common for heroes. 4 and 3 are most common for troops.
Yeah. As long as you are above 5, you are ahead of probably 90% of profiles in the game.
That's it.
If not more.
7 puts you ahead of 98%. It's just literally just big monsters and Gilgalad left, really.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, like literally, like fight 7, going from fight 7 to 8, really.
Glorfindel 7?
7.
Yeah, so you're up at Glorfindel. And then in terms of non-monsters, it's just like Gilgalad, Azog and Bolga 6.
7.
Are they 7? I thought they were 6. 7. That's insane. Why are they 7? Oh my god.
Because they yep.
Alright, moving on. I don't want to think about the fact that there's 7.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool. I think that's everything about Boromir, though, yeah?
Yeah. Do we want to jump into Boromir's
best friend?
Bro? Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about his best friend.
Okay, well, we've got Faramir, the captain of Gondor. He is a man, Gondor infantry hero of valor for 80 points. Now, 80 points seems a bit strange for this profile, but that's okay. He's move 6, fight 5, 3+ shoot value, that's great. Strength of 4, D5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, 3, 2 for his might, will, fate, respectively. Starts with armor and a sword. He's got resolve, accuracy, strike, defense as his heroics, and he can bring a huge amount of different things with his profile. You can bring a horse or an armored horse. You can bring a bow. You can bring heavy armor, you can bring a lance, and you can bring a shield. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different options with this profile. He has woodland creature built in, which is awesome, and he also has a special rule called, is there a captain here who still has the courage to do his lord's will? Which basically means if Denethor is part of the same army as Faramir, Faramir is fearless.
But must charge.
Yes.
If he can.
And that's the kind of the downside to it.
So realistically, you should never bring Faramir with Denethor. This ability is actually a bad ability. This is a downside.
Yes.
Because he's already courage 7.
Yeah.
With the army bonus. And you don't need fearless. Yeah.
3 points of will means if you snake eyes 3 turns in a row, you've still succeeded every single time.
Correct.
Like, it really doesn't matter, right?
This rule is just a pure downside. It's actually a pure negative.
Snake eyes is what, 1 in 36 turns?
1 in 36, correct.
So, like, it won't come up 3 times in a game.
If it does,
you have Harbinger and magic being thrown at you, or
even then,
you're so cursed with your dice that you actually need help.
Even if you Harbinger down to 6, it's a 1 in 12.
Yeah, which, again, like, 36 turns for it to actually come up as a rule that matters, right? Oh, no, slightly less than that.
Well, it depends on
either way.
If you roll it on the first or the last. It depends.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's like 24 to 36 turns before you fail 3 times on average.
And that's fine, right?
If your game goes 24 turns if you take courage checks, you're playing something truly epic.
Literally, right? Yeah.
And you're playing like 3,000 points, something insane.
Yeah. But
yeah.
what do you think of this profile as a whole?
I don't know why he's 80 points.
Yeah.
I said to you before we started recording, if you look at Hurin next to Faramir, they both start at 80. And they have almost the same profile, except that Hurin starts at defense 6. And his weapon is a mastercrafted two-handed weapon, which is so much better. So much unreasonably better than just a normal sword. Now, okay, Faramir has extra fate and extra 2 will, and some extra actions, but he doesn't have the one action that might make him worth taking, which is March. Correct. Yeah. The fact that he's got, like, accuracy is meh, resolve is meh, strike is decent, like, it's a good ability, but on his profile, he can't do much with it. He doesn't have damage to threaten an enemy hero. He doesn't have enough dice. He doesn't have enough might to like repeat brute force it.
Yeah.
And defense is good. Like 2 wounds with 2 fate defense, fine, nice, not bad, not good. Like it's useful. It's definitely useful. But you know, you can Hurin has less heroics and less all this other stuff. But you know, 2-handed weapon with strike is a lot scarier.
Yes, and I think that's the problem, isn't it? Yeah.
And you know, by the end of it, you know, Faramir can have a lance, which means that when he charges, he's as good as Hurin, but also at this point he's already costing, you know, an extra 15-20 points,
and that's the problem, right?
and even then I'm not even convinced Hurin is that great. Like he's good, but he's not that great. And Hurin also has other upsides. Hurin has an additional reroll in his dual rolls when he's near either Denethor or Aragon, and getting an extra reroll in combat is another huge up. Like getting to reroll, like you can basically make him a 5 attack hero. You can put him to, you know, on par with a, you know, 3 attack hero charging with a banner.
Yes, even though all those dice don't do the wound rolls, doing the attack rolls like
it just means he's so reliable. Huge. So and also Hurin does the VP denial, which again can be interesting. Has play. It's a useful ability. Whereas Faramir is overall profile wise like on par to slightly worse overall, costs more, and then has a special ability that's a downside.
Yeah.
Which is like there's just a and that's just and even ignoring Hurin, like, let's ignore Hurin because he came in a different book, right? You compare him to like Madril at 55 points, you get so much more utility. Sure, you don't get as good a fighter. I think he's only he might actually even be fight 5. He might actually be as good a fighter. Let's have a look. No, yeah, Madril's fight 4. So Madril is you know 25 points cheaper, which is significant. Just loses 1 point a fight, and I think he comes with a bow base. So really, he's actually 30 points cheaper essentially. Yeah. Now, you can't mount him and all this other stuff, but, like, mounting Faramir to charge into combat isn't going to achieve that as much as you can do with those points in other places. As you can by upgrading to Boromir, you know?
Yeah, and I think when you look at this model, like, if you start to really add some stuff onto him, you look at 110 points, right? For a profile that probably isn't going to make that.
You're looking at, like, Eomer or Earl the Young or other 3 attack heroes.
And being with 3s in all the right places, right?
With, you know, three attacks and like he has 3 attacks, 3 wounds, and he's like 10 points more.
Yeah,
doesn't have a lance, but he's strength 5 on the charge. Like it's almost as good, and he's so much better in a lot of other places. He's also got 3 fate.
Yes,
like the problem is comparable heroes just are so much better, and they're comparable heroes both in his book and outside inside of his, you know, his faction and outside of it, which you can get in allies as well. Not that I don't think you'd necessarily ally Eomer, but you know.
Yeah, I think if this model started at 75 points with the bow already equipped...
Yeah, like 70 points, you know, I can start justifying bringing him. You know, with a horse, he's 80, with lance, you know... 85 points for a decent lance hero, I can see that. You know, like, I would... If he started at 70, I'd then kit him minimally and make him, like, you know, a decent infantry killing missile.
Well, if he started at 70, I'd make him up to 90, give him the lance...
I just make him horse. 85. Oh yeah, 90. 85, 90 points. Lance, shield, horse, 2 attacks. Or if he just had 3, like, you could change nothing except to give him 3 attacks, and I think he'd still be fine.
Yes, and I think that's the problem, right? Like, for the longest time, I was convinced that Faramir would be a 3 attack model.
Hey, me too. That's me too. It just feels like, you know, for these points, you should get a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think once I started seeing people play Faramir in the local scene with us, I just got really... sad.
Just very underwhelming.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I'm playing Mordor. This guy should be running like absolute rings around me, and he's getting tied up by orcs.
Yeah.
Like, and he's getting bogged down by them. He made like genuinely, he's heroic combating and not always killing them. Like, what's happening? This sucks.
She's just got nothing on, unfortunately.
Yeah, and like it's just one of those feelings where it's like, especially when you knock the horse out from under him, he just becomes obsolete.
Without a horse, he's nothing.
Yeah.
There's better generic heroes in this, is like killing people when they don't have a horse.
Literally.
Which we'll get to.
Yeah. Now, let's jump onto a hero that's, in my opinion, quite a bit better for the price you pay.
At the very least, he's very interesting as a hero.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris. Tell us about Beregond.
So, Beregond is a man Gondor infantry hero, and he's a minor hero for only 30 points. He's move 6, he's fight 4, so relatively low fight, but he's a minor hero, you'd expect that, right? 3+ shoot value, that's great. Strength of 4, d6, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage of 4, 1/1/1 for his might will fate. He has heavy armor, sword, and a longbow. Strength 3 bow built into 30-point kit. He has heroic accuracy as his only heroic, and he can bring a horse for 5 points. He has a single special rule called Bodyguard. Very neat little 30-point or 35-point package.
Yeah, you probably bring him on the horse. Like, so the reason Beregond's interesting, and I realized this, having a cheap one might thing walking around is really tricky for your opponent to deal with if they don't have the same thing.
Yeah.
I think there was a game, it was the 1,000-point game we played of Lake Town and Thranduils versus your Lothlorien.
Yeah.
And I remember Hilda and like a band of like 10 Lake Towners walked down the flank into like 10 elves. And just like bodied them because Hilda got one move off because you had no other hero there. So you had more points of models there.
Yeah.
And by all rights, the 10 elves should, it will take 1 or 2 turns, but they should clear this.
Yeah.
But Hilda's there, she calls a move, everyone gets trapped, and like 3 or 4 elves just drop instantly, and suddenly the entire flank has been changed.
Yes. And I think that flank literally won you the game in the end.
Probably. It was like a very tight game, and then I just cleared that, walked up objective somewhere, and sat there with my cheap ass models.
Yes. And you kept your courage value around long enough. Like, I think she failed a courage check in the very last turn of the game, causing every guy except one model to pass their courage checks. Or to fail the courage check. So you had one
enough stuck around. That's all I needed. I just needed one guy there. That's it. But yeah, so there's actually a lot of value in cheap might, being able to move it around without worrying about it, because you don't want to send your captain who's 60, 70 points to babysit, 5 warriors.
And I think that's the problem, right? But like, if you consider this guy, like if you consider him against Denethor, for example, the exact same price, assuming he's 35 points on the horse here,
yeah.
You're losing access to bringing, 9 extra models?
You're losing a lot of models, but you're gaining... The bow shot is whatever, it's decent. The thing that makes him interesting is the bodyguard, actually.
Yeah.
Like, it makes him an excellent objective sitter, it makes him an excellent babysitter for models. You don't charge him into combat, you just sit him far away. He just, does a stand fast, walks forward, passes it on. Especially useful against armies that affect courage.
Yeah, I think sitting this model with a couple of cav, couple of bow shots, maybe 1 or 2 even sword and boards... Just sitting that on a flank, on an extreme flank, because he can deploy like that on his own.
That's that too. Also, just a model you can deploy without showing your opponent your
Anything.
hand.
Yeah.
Like I've dropped my Beregond on an objective marker. Your turn.
Yeah.
Deploy your 15-man warband exactly where you're going to play the game. Cool. I know what you're doing now. You know diddly squat about what I'm doing.
And even better, if your opponent's a 3-drop army and they drop first, they have to show you 2/3 of their drops before you show them anything of what you've done. And if they see you put down on the opposite flank with Beregond, and they, shit the bed and deploy matching him with their 3rd warband...
and you're like, okay.
You've just won 400 points.
You've just won deployment, yeah. You've just got a huge advantage from turn 1.
Yeah, Beregond is 100 points, gets to trade with 300 points on enemy warband.
Alfred always on his own warband. That's it. Same sort of deal here.
And, I've genuinely seen it. People who put, independent or small warbands like this down. A mate of ours, Tom, he runs a lot of goblins at the moment with, shaman, 2 archers, and people are deploying their entire army, and he's got 6 models on the table. And then he goes, okay, Balrog here, captain there, let's go. And people are like, oh, dang, this is what's happening.
No, I forgot about the army. But yeah, Beregond's a very, very interesting piece, very much worth considering.
Yes. And I think the way you can shape how the game plays with minor heroes, Beregond being a really good one because of Bodyguard, is really nice.
Yeah.
He's definitely not an auto pick, but he is a good pick.
He's just a thing to consider. Like, there's a lot of things to consider in this list.
Now, tell me about one of the auto picks of the game.
All right, he's not auto pick, but he's pretty much like he's like a top 3 contender. After you pick your big guy, you pick up either him or Irolas. Is the way I see it. We'll get to Irolas later as well. But Madril, Captain of Ithilien, for 55 points, you've got a man Gondor infantry hero of Fortitude with a move of 6, a fight of 4, 3+ shoot, strength 4, defense 5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, and courage 4, 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He's got armor, a sword, and a bow. He's got march and accuracy. He has a woodland creature, so he walks through the trees. And finally, he's got Master of Ambush. In scenarios where you roll for additional force to arrive, so mainly Maelstrom of Battle, you may modify the roll by for Madril's warband by +1 or -1. If he's on the board already, then all warbands from your army list may also modify their roll by +1 or -1. This also works in scenarios where you see which part of the board you deploy in. So in Capture and Control, lets you have a better chance of deploying in the front.
Things like Reconnoiter and as well. All that.
Does it work in Reconnoiter?
Any mission where models start off the board.
That's it.
Yeah.
Very, very useful. So, really, the question between him and Irolas is, do you think you're going to play Maelstrom of Battle? If you think you're going to play Maelstrom of Battle, you bring Madril. If you can control whether you're playing a Maelstrom of Battle or not, you bring Irolas. That's how I see it, at least.
Yeah, that's probably fair enough, actually.
I mean, realistically, Irolas is 10 points more. He gets an extra point of defense. He has the same might. He has heroic defense, which I'd say is more useful than accuracy.
Yeah.
His shielding rule is quite nice. Well worth the 10-point upgrade, I would say, for what you get for it.
And Bodyguard.
And Bodyguard as well. But you lose that Master of Ambush. And the Master of... so it literally just comes down to how valuable is Master of Ambush.
Which I'd say, if you are someone who wants to play the game competitively and decide that tournament scene is for you, and you're playing Gondor, Madril is your auto pick.
Well, you check the player spec and it depends on how the formatting is. If you know there's going to be no Maelstrom, or if you control whether there's Maelstrom, you don't need to bring him. If you've got like a veto system, the odds of having and it's not based on having to play a Maelstrom mission, you can just always veto Maelstrom if you want.
Yes.
And also your opponent might veto Maelstrom for you.
I was about to say exactly that. If there's like, if the mission pools are like, game 1 is 1 Maelstrom, 1 slay the enemy, 1 hold objective. Game 2 is the same, game 3 is the same, like that.
Yep.
Like, if you're really that scared about it, can veto out the Maelstrom game every time.
And just bring Irolas.
If your opponent is banning first, more times than not, they will ban out the Maelstrom anyway, because they don't like playing it, because no one knows how to practice a Maelstrom game. And they decide that Maelstrom bad because randomly lose.
Maelstrom is bad, Chris. I don't want to hear it. Stop it with your revisionism of the facts.
Well, I think Maelstrom gets a worse rap than it probably should. I think Storm the Camp is probably a worse mission than any Maelstrom game. But that's its own argument.
I agree. Having drawn twice for no good reason at tournaments playing Storm the Camp, I agree strongly.
Yeah. But, yes, look, Madril, even without the special rule, for 55 points, he's a steal.
If Irolas didn't exist, there wouldn't be any question about auto-bringing him.
Yeah, basically.
That's basically it.
And I think he's just great for what you do with him. He works in the Legendary Legions with the Rangers, which is the only Royal Gondor one that they have, actually, outside the Middle West one.
But you have technically the dead one. That's technically a Gondor Legion.
Yeah.
No, is it? No.
No, it's not. It's just
a 300. It's a fellowship. Never mind.
Yeah, so like...
Gondor at War.
Yeah, Gondor at War featuring Rohan. No, featuring Gondor, isn't it?
Featuring Gondor.
But yes, Madril's great. I love him. I think the next model we're about to talk about is another one of those really commonly seen models. Tell me about Mr. Damrod.
He's a guy. He's 25 points for a man Gondor infantry hero. He's a minor hero. He's very similar to Beregond, running up a 6-inch move, fight value of 4, 3+ shoot, strength of 4, defense of 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 4 with 1 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He's got armor, a sword, and a bow with heroic accuracy and woodland creature. So yeah, just very similar to Beregond. I think he's not as good because he doesn't have bodyguard.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I don't think there's much to say about him. Like, why would you bring him, Chris? Playing like beyond playing the Ranger Legion and wanting to bring him for that, because he just brings more Ranger bodies.
Because his model cool.
His new one is not bad.
Yeah,
I agree. His new
really
one's quite
cool.
nice. Yeah.
But I think, the reason why this is a model that you see often in terms of minor heroes and that sort of stuff is literally just the Legion, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's, 3 minor heroes now, including Damrod you can bring in the Legion?
Oh, yeah, 3.
3 in the Legion, plus Madril, plus Faramir, that can all bring full model count Rangers. For that reason alone, I think...
Well, now you have to bring Frodo.
You do, yeah.
But pre-Frodo being forced into the list, that was it.
Yeah. I think, even then, though, anything above probably 650 points, it doesn't even matter.
I mean, you'd rather bring him than a captain of Gondor in that list.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah, and I think being able to just boost model count in a small way with minor heroes is great.
Yeah.
If you're playing a 700 point event and you field to 620 points and you don't want to buy a captain with an empty profile, like with an empty warband, this clown and 5 or 6 models is a really nice way to do that instead.
It's very useful. Like building Lake Town lists, you notice that too. Having access to cheap heroes to bring some models, just a really nice thing to have access to when you're doing list building.
I find it so hard in Gondor to actually not be able to hit a model count, assuming you have the right models for the game.
Yeah.
That is. On the assumption you own the right models, it's so hard not to hit model count high and high warband count because of the flexibility of minor heroes.
Pretty sure, did we just write like 3 warband lists?
We did, yes. But that's also we're running for 750 points. I think three warband lists is a really healthy way to write.
I think we're just very rote.
Yeah. We also just autopiloted.
I was like, I right click Boromir and then this guy. Oh, I need a captain. Oh, that's it. And then max warbands. That's done.
I mean. Either way though.
But no, I agree.
Damrod is great for filling out points, especially if you're playing points that you're not used to.
It's a classic case of also do as we say, not as we do.
No, don't do that. We'd never tell you that information, not even twice.
Alright, tell us about this next one, Chris. It's quite an interesting one, I reckon.
Yes, Cirion, the Lieutenant of Anborn. He's a weird one. He's a profile that doesn't quite fit into the look of a lot of Gondor, which is interesting.
He's just very strange.
Yeah, so he's a man, Gondor infantry hero of Fortitude for 55 points. Fight 6, movement 6, fight 4.
If he was fight 6, he'd be really good. You'd be auto-include that point.
He's a fight 4, strength 4, d6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage of 4, 3, 1, 1 for Might, Will, Fate, armor, sword, and shield. He's got resolve and strike, so he doesn't even have march, which makes him a little bit tricky as well.
He's the lieutenant, not a captain, so...
Well, there's that, right?
He's a Primaris lieutenant.
Yeah. He is the boldest of the bold, which basically means he gets +2 for charging terror, and he also has +2 for being killed by a blade of the dead. Effectively making him, courage 5 to 7. Yeah, courage 7 when fighting or charging a terrifying model, and courage 7 when being stabbed by the King of the Dead or some army of the dead. He's good. He's fine. And Spectres. Doesn't have march, so would probably not see use in very many lists.
Again, the thing you want out of a cheap hero is utility, and he doesn't really have that.
Yeah, I mean, he's got strike. That alone is nice. And being able to go like, oh, there's a mortar troll, let me roll in my courage 7, which anything but snake eyes, I'm gonna pass on. I have 1 point of will. I'm gonna strike. And 4 rangers followed me in. We're all gonna do our strike up and hopefully go for the best.
That's I think the imagined use case for this rule is charge a troll, call a strike, use him to bully monsters that don't have might. The problem is, I think your big heroes are already really good at bullying those things, whether it's Aragon or a wizard or Boromir. All 3 will bully a Mordor troll in their own way. Yeah. I mean, Aragon will just kill it. Boromir, if he has a lance, will just kill it. Otherwise, he'll not lose to it.
Yeah.
He'll eventually kill it slowly. If he has a lance,
Boromir will charge in to that and the orc and say, I hope you pass the coach check.
He'll make you roll a 7, you'll fail, and then you'll laugh.
And then inform you that you're going to do 3 wounds to the troll using might.
Yes, and then he can burn all his might. Even if he has the flag, he can just force it through with might. If he doesn't want to force it through with might, he can just slowly wear the troll down, because he'll win eventually.
And a 2+ strength fix against the troll is surprisingly nice as well, right?
And then you just same thing, just pour some bodies into it.
You're now strength 5 on the charge. You're gonna kill the troll.
That's it.
All 3 of your big heroes have the tool to deal with it, and this guy with only he's hard locked to strength 4. There's nothing you can do.
He's like Faramir. He's like Faramir, but cheaper. He has the exact same problem. He's a fighty dude who's not very fighty
in the right way.
Does nothing else.
Yeah, and I think strength 4 is fine. But if you're looking at Gondor as a whole, which is why I think we're a bit doom and gloom on some of these profiles for the heroes, your Gondor troops are not going to get kills. You need it to be 3 heroes, and this is not the type of hero you want to be relying on.
Yeah, like I said, you need your small heroes, bring utility, your big heroes, get stuff done.
Bring the damage. Yeah.
That's it.
And I think there are some small to melee heroes that can do a blend of that really well, such as
Yeah, we do actually have a damage hero who's not expensive, the Knight of the White Tower. So for 60 points, you get a manned Gondor infantry hero of Fortitude. So 5 points more than our previous profile. Move 6, he's Fight 5 base. Already, remember we talked about.
Yeah.
Huge. Being Fight 5 is huge. Strength of 4, defense of 6, so same in that regard. 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 4. 2-1-1, so only 2 might, but that's not that big a deal. Especially when you start at a higher fight base.
Exactly.
He's got heavy armor, a dagger, and the White Sword of Gondor. So he's got 2 weapons, because his White Sword of Gondor is a 2-handed weapon. So if you want a one-hand, you can. If you want a 2-hand, you can also do it with the White Sword of Gondor. Additionally, when you strike with the White Sword of Gondor, you get Mighty Blow. So each hit does 2 damage. He just one-shots characters.
Or trolls.
Well, 2 shots trolls. Oh,
Yeah.
you mean half trolls. Half trolls.
Yeah, half trolls.
You want to half trolls. And when you fight 5 and there's a goblin captain or an orc captain or any captain that isn't, human or elf, basically, or dwarf, you put him into that captain. Actually, no, human captains he beats. Any captain that isn't dwarf or elf, right?
He will just beat.
He will beat by default, and then he will one-shot. He can also heroic strike. He's a generic hero with strike. Very rare, very potent. And finally, if that wasn't enough, if he scores a natural roll of a 6 in a dual roll, he does not apply the penalty for using a 2-handed weapon. So, roll a 6, you win. None of this, I rolled a 6, but now it's a 5, and no, the goblin rolled a 6. No, I'm going to die. No, you win.
Literally. You just
win.
go, lol them out, my 2-hand paid off. And
So,
this model is fantastic. He's also not named, which means you can have 16 of these guys called Knights of the White Tower. There you go.
that's actually a fun list.
Yeah.
I like that, Chris. Yeah, I might look at getting some knights.
He is actually a really nice model as well. He is one of the newer models on the Gondor scene prior to the Gondor War book. In fact, he is one of the newest models.
Quite like him, yeah. He's quite cool. Quite dynamic as well.
He's dynamic, he's nice, he fits in with the line well enough, but also looks very distinct, and I absolutely adore him for that reason. And just being 2-handed with Mighty Blow is a really scary combo. It means that when this model taps into the Mordor Troll, you'll be winning on a 5, and you've struck, and you've got a clown next to you. Every time you hit, you randomly do an extra wound. If you slightly high roll that, or you trap the troll, you've almost guaranteed kill the troll.
And think about, you could bring him with something like Gandalf.
Yes.
That's pretty spooky.
People like this guy and Gandalf pair off really well together because he plays into the weakness of Gandalf in that this is your dedicated burly damage dealer.
I mean, look at it. There's a hero over there. He's fight 5 strike guy. He thinks he's top stuff. Gandalf just immobilizes him. This guy walks into him and goes, "Okay, let's see what you got," and then one shots him, and then you laugh.
Especially with the trap. 4 dice with the trap behind
if
it.
Any of them get at strength 4. In most heroes, he's winning on 5s with the +1 or 4s, right? So you just
Let's say 5s.
Let's say 5s. So you'll get 1 basically guaranteed, and if you might throw a second, you're basically guaranteed to kill against. Well, you are guaranteed to kill against most one fates.
Yeah.
Right. So if you roll a 4 and a 5 and 2 1s or whatever, you spend 1 might, and now you've just guaranteed a kill. There's no you don't get to roll fate, buddy. You're dead.
Literally, right? And even then, you've done the first wound, the opponent model is currently dead. They must expend fate to make that choice not dead, and then you just say kill. I spend the might now, guaranteed the kill. Instead of just having that coin flip later in the turn, where you've said I've done 2 wounds, you go actually it's 4 now. Yeah, it's just phenomenal to have that power just push through on the model. I love this guy. He's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Speaking
what's
of,
next, Chris?
Yeah, some more generic style models. The King of Men is the next profile we have.
What does he do, Chris?
Well, he's a weird one. He is a Gondor man, infantry, hero of valor, as per the FAQ. Mm-hmm. He is 60 point space, armor and sword, march and defense as his heroics. And he can bring an armored horse, a horse, heavy armor, a lance, and a shield for their respective points, which it's a good enough selection to get you what you want. But the only caveat to this guy is you may only use this model with unnamed heroes, basically.
Yeah.
So there's no Boromir, there's no Aragon, there's no Ingold, there's no Hurin.
Yeah, one option is Eldion.
Literally, right? And that's basically
well, actually, right? Okay. Technically, you could, rules is written here, unless it's FAQ'd, you could just run Theoden.
Correct.
Is just unnamed, it's just no named Gondor heroes.
Yeah, correct.
I don't know what you'd want to, but you can.
Yeah, well, I think if you wanted but even then, like...
Denethor's 35 points, boss.
Yeah, like, if you really want to bring Gondor into the matchup with it, just bring a Denethor or just a captain or a Knight of the White Tower instead.
Oh, I wouldn't bring a captain. If you're bringing just the generic, I think the 10-point upgrade from captain to King of Men is worth it. Going from fight 4 to fight 5 is nice.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
And you gain heroic defense, which is actually a very useful ability.
Yeah,
so I would say if you're like, I'm going to bring a captain of Minas Tirith, just bring, King of Men, 10 extra points, well worth it. But you also have other options at that price range you could bring.
And that's kind of the tricky part, right? Like, to just say to yourself, like, I'm going to bring a King of Men because I like bringing Kings of Men, and saying I can't bring any fiefdom or Gondor hero alongside with them just sucks. Like, that's just really annoying. Being said, again, rules as written, you can bring this guy with Gandalf.
It might be in the FAQ. Oh, well, you could do Gandalf. That's kind of funky.
I don't think it's...
I don't know why you would. I don't know why you wouldn't bring just Madril or Irolas for the same points.
Like, it's just one of those weird ones. I think it's just gone under the radar.
Because why would you?
Exactly.
It's bad.
Right? Yeah, but
the fact that no one cares.
Yeah, that's probably
it's like, oh, guys, I've got the secret Peregrin combo. I can bring Gandalf and the King of Men. What? That's insane.
Yeah. Now, I believe this guy's not named technically himself.
Yes, you could bring 3 Kings of Men. Correct.
Yes, which is a cute little thing you could do if you really wanted to. Again, if you wanted to go on the captain heavy spam, these guys are just captains plus. So there's that. I think if you're bringing early young, he's the auto choice to tag along with
It's him or a Knight of the White Tower. They're both good choices.
Yeah.
King of Men is nice because he lets you bring March into the list because Earl doesn't have it.
And I think I'd rather bring this guy with some Gondorians over a Rohan captain.
It really depends. I've done a lot of... It depends on the points. It actually depends so much on points because Sons of Earl is so expensive.
Yeah, 20 points a pop sucks. Oh, no, it doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't. It's great.
But
they're great. Oh, I love Sons of Earl. I like having hero captain damage on 20 points. It's pretty good.
I do think, though, the King of Men is a gorgeous sculpt, and all the different Kings of Men are really, really nice to bring along. But again, it really requires some quite explicit choices in how you're playing the game to make this model feel worth it. But let's bring ourselves into something that doesn't see much gameplay. Aleksa.
Captain of Minas Tirith for 50 points. We got a man, Gondor, infantry, hero, fortitude. 6-inch move, fighter 4, shoot a value of 4+, strength 4, defense 6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 5. 2 might, 1 will, 1 fate, coming base with heavy armor and sword, and heroic march for his actions. You got a horse for 10 points, a bow for 5, a lance for 5, and a shield for 5, and he comes with shield wall. So, interesting things about this character, he can be defense 8. The list ends there. The problem is, think about all the profiles we've seen so far. Things like Madril, or the Knight of the White Tower, that are all at the same points or less than this guy. The only interesting thing about him, the defense 8,
and the horse.
Well, I was going to say, you can bring defense 8, or you can bring a horse.
Yeah.
Because he needs to be in the shield wall, in which case you don't get the horse, and horses are such massive multipliers for heroes that if you're going to bring him, you're going to bring him on a horse with a lance, and then you're spending, 70 points, and you're getting a decent enough profile, you're getting decent enough damage. It's cheap. But you could just bring 5 Knights of Minas Tirith, stick them next to Boromir, and they're basically doing the same or better. And
that's the problem.
Because your characters don't get +1 fight from Boromir. It's only warriors.
Yeah.
If you got +1 fight from Boromir, you suddenly have a case.
Yes.
You could justify him. That would be interesting. But as it stands, as a part of a normal general purpose army, unless you're trying to spam out cheap heroes, and even then you have cheap heroes up you have so many cheap heroes in this list. It's actually insane.
Cheap mounted heroes might be the exception.
Yes, cheap mounted heroes is the actual thing there.
Yeah. You
have a lot of cheap foot heroes, not a lot of cheap mounted heroes. If you want to spam cheap mounted heroes and bring a bunch of knights, it's cool. Go for it. I think it's neat. It's a cool looking army aesthetically. I just don't think it's a very efficient use of what Gondor does.
Yeah, and I think that's half your battle, isn't it? But look, like I said, he's in the list because every army has their captain equivalent profile. Just like Mordor, you'd never bring this model, basically. They look really cool, some of the sculpts, especially this one they have pictured here. I actually really like that model. It's just a shame that there won't be much use out of him.
That's it. Alright, moving on to Gondor at War. Chris, tell us about Ingold.
Yes, so on to the new models, or some of the newer models, I should say. Ingold is the Warden of the Ramus Echor, which if we watch the movies, Ooh, woo, who this? Don't know what that is. Anyway.
I still don't know what Mammoth is.
Yeah, cool. It's a big ring.
Neat.
Cool. Anyway, for 65 points, you get a Man Gondor Infantry Hero of Fortitude, who is Move 6, Fight 4, Strength of 4, Defense of 7, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, Courage of 4, and 3/1/1 for the Might Will Fate. The saga of the 3/1/1s continue. He is a heavy armor, sword and shield wielding model with strike and defense as his 2 heroics. Probably 2 of the 3 best, or the 2 that you'd like to see a lot.
March is better than strike.
Probably, but
Defense. This is a topic for a different video, but
Yes.
continue.
I think he's got 2 of the 3 best heroics in the game.
Those three are the 3 best.
Where they stand is subject to change.
Where they stand is based on who they're on.
Yeah. And
So
I
on
think
this
that's the problem.
model, I'd say March and Defense are better. On Boromir, if I had to drop Strike to get March, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good way to say it, right? Like, Boromir, you can excuse not having March. This model, it would have been nice to keep it. But regardless, the reason why this model is good is also he has Shield Wall, so he can be Defense 8 as well.
So remember how we talked about that Gondor guy and how he can be Defense 8 and how that's kind of cool?
What if you just guaranteed your entire front line would be Defense 8 for no reason, with no thought used?
7 everyone else, but yeah.
Oh, 7, sorry, yeah.
Correct.
This model lets you do that, because if you lose a fight, you still ask your opponent to back away. Now, being trapped can still happen, and all that sort of stuff would still apply on the backaways. That's been FAQ'd. But you, as the player, with Ingold in the line, all friendly Gondor warrior models within 3 do not back away at the end of the fight's being resolved. Which means you can set up your nice, pretty wargame-looking battle line with your shield wall and guarantee, unless models are dying, that is going to keep its shape really nicely. That's what makes this model nice. What are your thoughts?
If everyone in your meta likes to play Urukai, excellent.
This guy rocks.
If they're all playing elves, well,
Not as good. But if they're all playing hobbits, really good.
oh my god, they're
Yeah.
playing hobbits. You're laughing at the bank. I mean, lots of dwarves armies are strength 4 as well. There's lots of axes floating around. Being D7 instead of 6 is a notable breakpoint.
Well, I think the biggest thing that makes D7 useful is heroes don't kill
That's
on
true.
5s.
Heroes generally also.
I actually think D7 is one of the best defense. If you could pick any side in the game to be that high,
to +1 yourself.
defense from 6 to 7 is probably one of the most impactful changes.
Alongside like 4 to 5 on 5.
On 5 value, yeah. I think those are the two
big
biggest singular changes you can do in a game, right? Because forcing 6s onto everything on the table that's not monstrous in nature or just an absolute monster model.
Strength 3 armies are just crying, basically.
Exactly, right?
Unless you're Strength 4 army, your heroes aren't Strength 5.
Yeah.
Outside of very rare exceptions.
And because of that, this guy will always feel great. Now, you said it yourself, no March, that kind of sucks. But I think he makes up for it in a lot of other ways.
He's very good. The tricky part, again, is finding the slot for him. Because you're realistically 3 to 4 heroes, even at like 750 points. And so you got to pick someone to carry March, you got to pick your big guy, and then you got one last slot left, and that's where he might slot in, depending on what you're playing.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you want to play a shield wall list, he is the. Like, if you want to play pure grind, you want to play slow, he's pretty good. The other thing to consider is it is a 3-inch aura, so it's not huge. If it was a 6-inch aura, it would actually be pretty crazy. So 3-inch, interesting, neat, has good play. He can set up in a choke and hold it for a real long time, really reliably.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Exactly. And he will always do that as well, which is nice.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, on to...
Alright, I've mentioned him enough times. I may as well talk about him. Irolas, Captain of the Guard. For 65 points, you've got your other second choice. Man, Gondor, Infantry, Hero of Fortitude. A move value of 6, a fight of 5. Very solid.
Yep.
4+ shoot. Defense of 6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 4, 3 might, 1 will, 1 fate. He comes with heavy armor and a sword. He has march and defense, so as we talked about, you want 2 abilities on your little goon, defense and march are the best ones. He also has bodyguard. Bodyguard, as we talked about as well, very useful for a lot of different things. And he also has a additional special rule. Defend the White City. Instead of using the shield, Irolas may use the shielding rule, even though he is not armed with a shield. If he chooses the shield and wins the ensuing fight, he may make a single Strength 4 strike against one enemy from the same fight. That is just a very useful rule.
It's cheeky. I like it.
You're fighting, 3 orcs have piled Irolas, roll 4 dice, roll a 6, knock one of them in the head.
Yeah, and probably untrap yourself.
yeah, like it's just useful ability, and that's what I was talking about with the comparison to Madril. Irolas will do noticeably more on a front line than Madril will, but he's missing that Maelstrom ability. And so
I think like he's fight 5. That alone is the difference.
He's
to
fight
make me
5.
want to bring him.
Fight 5 is enough to sort of justify the 10 points. The bodyguard, the heroic defense, and the defend the White City are just a cherry on top.
Yes, this is a model where those 2 heroics really are the best 2 heroics for the model you could possibly pick. March and defense are just so clutch, so many times.
On a 65-point guy.
Exactly, right? Like, just being able to roadblock Azog. Like, that just sucks. And you get this clown going in to Azog, 4 dice shielding, and randomly smacking the White Warg in the face if he wins. Like, it's nice. It's not going to do a huge amount given over the course of a long game, especially if you have to do that 2 or 3 times.
He'll die after the second time.
Exactly.
The second time he's dead, but the first time you'll be having a good laugh.
Exactly. And I think just being able to go, oh, you know what? I'm a bit worried I might lose this fight against 3 random guys. I may as well just shield because, you know, I'd rather keep the guy alive than randomly get flash killed with being trapped, right?
That's it.
And being able to do that strike and untrap yourself some of the time out of that is just
so 1 in 3 to knock a dude out most of the time. Like,
exactly.
Like, that's pretty good.
And if you're willing to command point of might to it, you can very easily untrap and then get moves around the other side, especially if the other models near him. He's a fortitude healer as well, which means you can bring plenty of guys with him. Like, he just... Yeah, if you're not bringing Madril for Master of Battle, he is the model.
Maelstrom battle.
What did I say?
Master of Battle.
Oh, I wish.
If Madril had Master of Battle,
so much better.
He's got auto. He's auto.
Yeah.
Alright.
Onto the other lovely model on this list.
It's your turn, buddy.
Oh, it is me. Oh, I get to talk about him. Yes! Okay. Hurin the Tall. This guy is amazing. Because he likes keys. He's the warden of them, in fact. How good's that? He is a man Gondor infantry hero of valor for 80 points. He is movement 6, but he has a horse, so he will not be movement 6 for long.
That's it.
He is fight 5, fantastic. Strength of 4, fantastic. Defensive 6, 2 attacks, 2 wounds. Courage of 5, go to 6. And he is 3-1-1. Continues. 3-1-1s forever and ever and ever. He is the Warden's Sword, which means he has a Master Forge hand and a half sword, which basically means he has a Master Forge 2-handed sword, because you'd never not.
Yeah, you there's unless you want to not kill someone.
Yeah, exactly.
The only reason you would not two-hand is if you didn't want to kill someone, which happens occasionally.
Going for the quarter, right?
It's nice to have occasionally, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Now, this guy has some really good heroics as well. He has Resolve, Strike, and Strength is his 3.
Chris just lied to you. He has 1 good heroic.
I think that Resolve can be really nice in the right matchup. Most of the time, it's probably not that big of a thing, and I'll be honest with you, this is probably not the model you want to call it on.
That's it.
But the fact that he has access to it...
I'm being...
it's a tool for the box. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a downside that he has it. You know, it's fine.
And I don't think you're exactly paying for it, right?
No, you're not. You're not. No, you're not.
And he has the 10-post horse, like I said, so for 90 points, you get this combo of the 2-handed Master Forge weapon slapping into most things. He's great. Now, he also has 2 special rules that one of these sometimes make a difference. The other one almost always makes a difference. One of those that sometimes it does is in defense of the king, which basically means if he is within...
3.
Pardon?
3 inches.
3 inches, thank you. Of either Denethor or Aragon as Elessar. It's quite explicit it has to be Elessar.
Yes.
He gets an extra reroll to the dual roll.
And Fearless.
And Fearless, correct. Which is just phenomenal. Basically what that means is if you plant this guy next to a banner when he charges in, and Aragon's standing nearby, or even better, if Aragon is the banner. Is standing nearby this guy, and he charges 2 mortal orcs, he rolls 5 dice to win the fight, and 6 dice to kill the 2 models. He's great for that reason, right?
Yes.
And you can do that for that one turn, explode off to the left while Aragon goes right, and suddenly you're bringing 2 points of might and 3 dice into the next fight that probably still has a good chance of winning it as well. He's just a great model, and he really slaps. But the real reason you see him in almost every Gondor list is the line of command, which basically means if you have a Gondor hero that is the leader of your army, when that model dies and Hurin is still alive on the table, your opponent does not score victory points for killing the model. Which means you either have to kill both this guy and the other model, or just do a wound to the enemy hero, and that's that.
Yeah, I was going to ask, if you wound a hero, do you still score the 1?
So you score 1 point for the wound.
Cool.
But I believe it's 0 points.
I'm sure. Well, I assume if you kill them, you'd still score a point for winning them.
I'm not actually sure.
Actually, that's an epic.
That's a good thing to do.
Either way.
Yeah.
Like denying VP is neat.
Denying VPs is objectively the way you win the game.
That's true.
And having it built into a model as a safety net in case you have a whoopsie.
You can
with
just
your
be like,
dice.
oh, all right, go Aragon. Oh, you died. Oh well.
Oh, what a shame. Yeah.
You killed like 200 orcs. That's fine. Oh, and you.
Yeah, or if you're playing against Tom, you get shattered and then you strangle 25 goblins, literally 25 goblins, not exaggerating, over the course of a game, because he goes, like, doesn't matter, I can't lose
-1 +1.
Yeah. And you can't shatter the horse, he never lost a fight. And so he just... It was phenomenal.
It's such an insane story. Or you can be Aragon and you get throwing knife in the head by a Corsair. I know it's the best kill I ever got in a game.
And Hurin would say, lol, Lamau, Aragon, it's fine, I can take over.
I got this boss.
I got this guy, yeah, don't worry, man.
I think, yeah.
The one thing I will quickly note on top of that, it is a Gondor hero, which means fiefdoms work beautifully with this model. True. You can use Imrahil, you can use Forlong, you can use things like that for his rule. Yeah. Just something to note.
I think generally over time I've decided that you kind of want to have Denethor or Aragon with him. In Defense of the King is such a powerful ability. Like, it just ups his reliability so much that if you're running him, I would run him because I'm running Aragon and Denethor.
Yeah.
Because, like, as we talked about, you have a lot of heroes that you bring for a certain reason. The reason you bring Hurin is you're running one of those other two, and Hurin is going to get that benefit. Because, like, he is pretty good for 90 without that rule. Right? Without the rule. And he is excellent for 90 with that rule. And
consider this. For 125 points, you just bought Denethor and Hurin, and 30 models are available to you to buy.
What is that? That's
like
insane.
that sentence is why you bring this guy with.
That sounds like
Denethor.
a really nasty 500 point list.
Yeah. Well, I've seen a 550 list with these two models and Guahir. And I love it. Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Not that I give anyone ideas, but yeah.
Stop it. Oh my god, what do you do?
Well, what you do is you kill Denethor, or you wound Denethor because Denethor starts to be the leader on that list, which kind of sucks, but that's okay. But this model just brings a lot of flexibility, and for 125 points to bring him and Denethor, it's scary. The one thing I will say, he is a hero of valor, which kind of sucks. You can't do like the all fortitude thing and have him as the safety net because his line of command rule would just work on himself and be obsolete. But that's probably a good thing. It means you kind of have to bring either, Denethor, one of the two brothers, Aragon, or Gandalf doesn't even work because you don't have the Gondor keyword.
Nope.
Or you have to bring one of the fiefdoms heroes. So there's only like 6 heroes you can bring with him actually providing this rule too.
Yeah, it has to be legends or other valors.
Yeah, so it is somewhat limited on that front. But look, if Boromir is in the game in a competitive setting, you've probably got Madril and you've probably got Hurin the Tall. Those are probably just the 3 heroes you've bought because that's what everyone else does and you copy everyone else.
Well, no, we're playing Lady of Light, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, buddy. Calm down. Calm down. Pure Gondor with what? Sorry?
Well, that's been nerfed out. You can't do it anymore because she
can't. Yeah, you're right. She can't actually get it. Oh, never mind.
But you just bring Saruman from White Council instead. There you go. Instead of Gandalf.
Saruman is pretty good. White Council Saruman...
You lose Fireball. That's the problem.
That doesn't. I have never used I've used Fireball as a meme to blow up someone after I'd already won the game. So he's 10 points cheaper.
Is he really?
I think so, yeah. I'm pretty sure he's 10 points cheaper in White Council. Either way, unironically, I reckon Saruman the White as a Gondor ally isn't bad.
Yes, probably, yeah. But anyway, we are getting somewhat distracted. Yes.
We are distracted.
Alrighty, shall I jump into the first of our newest heroes?
Yes.
We've got Mablung here. So, Mablung is another one of our cheeky little minor heroes. He is a man Gondor infantry minor hero for 35 points. He is move 6, fight 4, 3+ shoot value, strength of 4, d5, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage of 4, 1/1/1 on the might, will, and fate. He has armor, sword, and a bow, and heroic accuracy. Also gains woodland creature. And he has a special rule called Bird Calls, which basically means he hands out Stalk Unseen as a special rule to any of the Ranger heroes available on the list, those being Faramir, Madril, Damrod, Anborn, as well as to all Ranger models, basically. He is just a fantastic model for that reason alone. For 35 points, just to say, everything has Stalk Unseen.
Yep.
Lovely. Like, it's 3 Elven Cloaks, basically, for a
your
huge
entire
amount of
army.
models, because it's within 6 inches, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's comfortably 26 models, basically, you can fit into that bubble and shoot in 2 ranks.
Yep.
Lovely. Love it. Already. Fantastic. But then, the rule gets slightly better. For the duration of a shot being shot, there is no Elven Cloaks against you for the same range. All models, the same type of models, all the Ranger heroes, so himself and the other 4 that I've mentioned, as well as Rangers, ignore Elven Cloaks when shooting their bows. Or ignore Stalk Unseen, I should say, when
Correct.
using their bows. Which is just absurd. It says, here, let me give you a special rule that's really powerful, and remove a special rule that someone else has paid for. Job done. That's it. Like, he's lovely.
To be fair, I think he only exists in the Ranger list.
Yeah, probably.
The other guy we're going to get to afterwards, Anborn, I think is generally useful. Like he's another one of those neat miners.
Yeah.
Do we have more to say about Mablung other than insanely powerful?
Insanely powerful in
list?
the right list, but it does get hampered because now you have to bring Smeagol, Sam, and Frodo.
Yeah, the list itself has gotten so much weaker that his benefits aren't that impressive. I mean, I guess if you're in like a Lothlorien meta or something, you could bring him as an answer.
So if you live in Queensland and play against Sam a lot,
Bring this guy, he's great.
Yeah, Sam short a lot.
Because I mean, like if you just bring like 12 Rangers and stick them next to him, it's huge.
exactly, right? So if you're playing against Lothlorien, or if you're playing against Rangers, the Mirkwood Rangers, or any of those, like Wild Men of Duradine, or I guess you both forget each other's things
true.
anyway. Like
That's true.
Like there's gonna be some random matchups where you just for some reason do okay into. But yeah, in isolation, in a Gondor pure list without the Legendary Legion, I don't see this model as being hugely relevant because there's enough tin cans for you to shoot at.
Yeah. That being said, Anborn, I do think is actually worth considering. So again, for Ranger Ithilien for 35 points, man, Gondor infantry, minor hero, move of 6. Fight value of 4, 3+ shoot, strength 4, defense 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage 4, 1 might, 1 will, 1 fate, armor, sword, and bow. He has the heroic accuracy special rule, and woodland creature, and he has lethal aim. Much less wordy. Each turn, Anborn may spend a single point of might without reducing his store, even if he has none, to modify either a hit roll, an in the way roll, or a to wound roll when shooting with his bow.
Phenomenal.
That's just a really useful ability. And like we said, courage 4 going to 5 with the army bonus, a point of will. He can sit on the flank with a few archers. When your army breaks, he calls the, stand fast. Pretty good odds of succeeding, and he sits there shooting with a might point. And a point of might makes a huge difference because...
it makes you a 2+ shoot value, or strength 4 bow, or 3+ in the
Well, yeah, essentially it makes you a 5+ to wound against a lot of things, which is twice as good as rolling 6s.
Exactly.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
And being twice as likely to succeed is much better.
Yes.
Obviously, he's 35 points for that, but he has the same other upside as someone like, Damrod. Or not as good as Beregond, because Beregond has a higher strength bow and has bodyguard. But, for the same points, or roughly the same points, you're getting a very impactful ability. So he's just another one worth considering. Depending on how you want to play, you can pick this guy up, and it's not a mistake. It's a good call.
Yeah, I think if you're going to throw a single minor hero into the game, it's either this guy or it's probably
Beregond.
Yeah, those are the two that I think either you're going to throw a minor hero into the mix, those are the two that you throw in.
Yeah, agreed. Alright, well, that's all the heroes, Chris. Now...
Oh, yes. Okay, so...
Tell me about the tin can themselves.
Yes, the fabled can of tins. Warriors of Minas Tirith. They are 7 points base. They are the man... Gondor infantry warrior keyword. Movement of 6, fight value of 3 with a 4+ shoot, strength of 3, defense of 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage of 3 going to 4. They have heavy armor and a sword, and their war gear options are an army bonus for 30 points, a banner for 25, a bow for 1, spear for 1, and a shield for 1. They have shield wall as a special rule, which means if you bring the shield and they get the right shape, they can be defense 7. They are reliable. They are nice.
They are guys. They are the most guys.
They're the most
in the game.
dude that ever did.
They're like they are the definition of goon.
Yeah.
like
it's fairly obvious that they are the profile that most of the game's balancing seems to be written around, and they were there from the start. They were there pretty early in the conception of this game as
when
a
the
whole.
ring was forged.
Yeah, right? Like everyone was there 3,500 years ago, right? Yeah,
That's it.
but like it's just one of those things where this model doesn't look flashy, and for the most part, it's not.
They're utterly unexciting in every single way.
But the one thing that they're phenomenal at doing is unexcitingly not dying.
Functioning okay.
Yeah. And I think for that reason alone, built in with an 8-point profile, because you're gonna bring something on this model.
Yeah, either a shield, a spear, or shield and spear if you're going full shield wall. I don't think we didn't do any full shield. Like we said, if you want to do like a full shield wall, full tin cans, full tanking it up, bringing not Ingold, what's his name? The other guy, the shield guy, the don't back away guy, the Ramus Ekor guy. That guy.
No, keep going. Come on, you got it. Come on. We talked about like
the
10
Mama
minutes
Jama guy.
The Mama Jama guy.
He's got strike and defense. Which is not as good as
but what's his
defense and
name?
march.
I don't remember. Can you help? No, don't look.
Ingold, that's the guy. It is Ingold. I thought it was Irolas. Why do they both stop? Just have some new names.
Have some new. They don't sound similar at all.
I think they're the same. They both start with I. Checkmate. All right, so moving on. Anything more to say about the Warrior of Minas Tirith?
Well, they have generic dude on horse next.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to talk about the Knight of Minas Tirith. So, where Warriors of Minas Tirith are not very flashy, but okay. Knights of Minas Tirith are relatively flashy in comparison, especially if you have Boromir next to them, and they're extremely cost efficient, which
Boromir?
a barometer.
Yeah, good.
Barometer captain of the White Tower. They are genuinely extremely cost efficient, which is exactly what you want to hear when it's exciting, right? Someone's like,
Yes.
"Oh, this car is so cool, it's so cost efficient, it's $200." In terms of profile, they're identical basically. So for 13 points, you get a man Gondor cavalry warrior with a move of 6, a fight of 3, 4+ street value. Not that it's relevant, they can't bring bows. Strength 4, defense 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 3. They've got heavy armor, sword, lance, and horse base. They can spend 1 point for a shield, so they're 14 points, basically double the cost of a base warrior. And they also have shield wall, so if they get dismounted, they can join the wall, get a +1 fight.
Yeah, just quickly, they're strength of 3, not strength 4. But yes, otherwise,
I said 3.
no, you
I
definitely
said fight value. I said shoot value of 4.
Yeah. Anyway,
Check the replay.
they do have shield wall, like you said, which is really nice. There's no reason to paint them differently or dismount weirdly or anything like that. In the way of like, oh, you know, this guy loses his horse, I need to get him into the line, but won't get shield wall. Nah, doesn't matter. Literally, just pull a model from your case and plug and play. They do have a lance, which makes them so flashy, like you were talking about. They will get kills. For 14 points probably, because you better shield with them. For 14 points, you get a lot of kill power out of these bases.
+1 to wound is really powerful. It's ludicrously powerful.
And 4 dice giving you that when you're wounding someone.
Yep.
It challenges and threatens heroes. Like, I've lost literally heroes randomly to 1 cavalry that charged me. And I'm like, oh, you know, I'm 3 dice, but I'm on foot. I'll roll a shot.
I mean, even D7 heroes can eat it.
Yeah. And
It's
just
still 5s.
And that's literally what happened to me. I had a D6 hero that when I'm not going to shield, I'll roll 3 dice into you. I would like a 4 high. The other dude rolled a 6. I only had 1 might left on the hero. And he just went, oh, look at that. 3 5s and a 6. Model's dead no matter what. Cool. Anyway, moving on.
That's it. So, moving on, in fact, tell me, Chris, about your favourite models in the range.
The Ranger of Gondor. The most confusing amalgamation of cloaks and robes I've ever seen. They are a man Gondor infantry warrior. For 8 points, they are movement 6, with a fight of 4, 3+ street value, strength of 3, defense of 4, 1 attack, 1 wound, courage of 3 going to 4, armor, sword, and bow. So for 8 points, they already have the bow, and for 9 points, they can have a spear. These guys are crazily good, especially with Boromir. For 9 points, you can boost your entire front line to fight 5, with your shield wall being intact some of the time not. But even more importantly than that, this guy's defensive 4 doesn't matter, because you have to kill the fight 5 fighting dude in the front in the first place.
And you know what's better than being defense 7? not having to get hit.
Exactly. Fight 5, this means you're going to win that fight. And if you're in range of the fight 5, you're in range of a banner, which means you get 3 dice in every fight.
Means you have very good odds to win.
And that's exactly it, right? Like, it's what, 50...
I think it's like 60% if it's 3 dice versus 3 dice.
Yeah.
If you have high fight, you're up 20%, basically.
Yeah, which is just absurd. To have a 20% gap to just say, I'm not going to die.
Going from even to
Yeah.
that is crazy.
And then saying on top of that, like, also, if you're fighting another army... If you're fighting an army that's D5 or lower, you're going to be doubling your chance to wound them as well. And it just gets so compoundingly good being fight 5. But even without the fight 5, this model is just very consistent.
Even if you just make your army fight 4, like you're just evening it out, like it's still huge. No matter what, if you're setting out a banner or not, the extra fight value is extremely valuable.
Yeah, because all the other fight 3 armies in the game have a gimmick, have a something that they can rely on to help them out in some way, shape, or form. I think the only big exceptions I can think to that is something like Dunland, where there's not.
Well, Dunland has a lot of fight 4 in it.
Yeah, or not really.
Well, depends how you build it. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It has potential for it.
But Dunland gets access to a lot of strength 4 and axes, for example.
12-inch banners, strength 4 army wide, lots of minor heroes that are quite strong.
Yeah, which I think when you consider like the
heroes.
Ranger profile into stuff like that, making the difference up is nice, right? But like, fight 3 armies as a whole usually, like I said, have a gimmick that can make them work anyway.
Or obscene numbers.
Yeah.
Which Gondor doesn't quite
and
reach
gimmicks,
those
right?
numbers.
They're just good. I think there's nothing exceptional about them. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they're like an auto in the list, is the thing. They just are a part of Gondor unless you want to play a pure shield wall, because the nature of how fight value works in the game encourages you to bring these guys.
Yes.
And the nature of how bows work as well. Like the nature of both how bows, how fight value, how spear support works. All these things work in a Ranger of Gondor's favor.
Yeah.
If those things change, they would become a lot worse. Like if fight value didn't transition through the front, or if shooting was more of attacks on points or anything like that. But those things are not true. Thus, Ranger of Gondor good.
Yeah, basically. And I think the normal guy with a bow, or our next profile with a bow, doesn't see the same style of use as the Ranger, purely because of that 3+ shoot profile.
Not just that, like, again, we're going to talk about, actually, if we want to start the Citadel Guard now, I'll talk about their profile, and then I'll talk about why he isn't as useful.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, for 9 points, you get a Citadel Guard, a man Gondor infantry warrior. So he's got a move of 6, a fight value of 4, a shoot value of 4+, a strength of 3, a defense of 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 3. He's got heavy armor, sword, and spear. You can bring a horse for 7 points, which is a really random number, but, 16 points on a horse. Okay. Not as good as a knight of Minas Tirith, quite frankly. He can swap his spear for a longbow, though, for 1 point. So he can be 17 points on a horse with a bow. And he has a special bodyguard. Now, bodyguard is really neat.
Yes, bodyguard already makes this model great, in my opinion.
And fight 4. So fight 4 with a spear with bodyguard for 9 points. So compared to Ranger of Gondor, if this guy has no bow, they're the same points.
Yeah.
If he has a bow, he's 1 point more. But he's not a spear anymore. And that's the thing that kills them as like a true centerpiece of the army. I think the list I wrote had quite a few of them. I quite like them. I've come to liking them recently. But still, you can't, like, you could just have only tin cans and rangers, and that would be fine. Doing only tin cans and Citadel Guard would not work the same.
Exactly.
It just would not feel functional in the same way. Because you either have no spear supports or you'd have no bows. You'd have bodyguard, which is great, especially as the game goes on. And since they are if you're bringing them as those second rank spear supports, that's really neat. And also they can kind of do what Beregond does, where they set off on the flank with bodyguard. The thing is, 2 of them with bows cost the same as Beregond on a horse. Or 1 point less.
Yeah.
Right?
No, 3 of them. Is it?
No, because once they're on a horse, they
on
are
a horse,
17
sorry.
points.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
34. So 2 of them on horse is the same as Beregond on a horse.
Yeah.
And Beregond has that little bit of might, that little bit of extra courage, those little things that give him the utility to be worth more than 2 of these guys.
Yeah, and I think that's it, right? Like, I think...
Yeah.
In isolation, the difference between the profile of the Ranger and this guy doesn't seem huge. Especially when you say, oh, but the longbow, Some of the time that makes a huge difference being shot through on the bow. I'd rather all the time hitting 16% better than some of the time wounding 16%
Against the D6
better.
model, the Ranger of Gondor is just objectively better.
Yeah.
Against the D4 model, again, better. It's against D5 and D7 that the longbow is
relevant.
Slightly better? Or
it's
or
1
equal.
bit better every time.
Well, it's 1 bit better, but it's also hitting on a worse shot. So I don't know if the math evens out in that regard.
it probably ends up slightly.
So it's a wash if it's got its perfect situation.
Yeah.
And it's worse than every other, and it costs more points. So you get an extra point of defense, and you get bodyguard, which are both good rules.
Well, I think the defense is good. Like, being that D5 means that other shooting won't be bad.
It's good against non-elven shooting or crossbows. It's got purpose. It's relevant, but it's not. I wouldn't bring them for shooting, basically.
No,
I'd rather bring the rangers to be the shooting. I'll bring them as my, spear supports that have the courage if I need to, touch a troll or something, they can pop out of the back and do it. Or if they, if it's a long grinding game, once the front line starts to disintegrate and I break, I've still got a bunch of bodyguard guys to stick around.
Yeah, I think I would bring a bunch of these guys with spears, with tin cans with bows. That's the combination I'd probably bring if I wasn't going to lean on rangers.
Yeah.
And I think tin cans with bows probably does what these guys do better, especially since a tin can can bring a shield and gets shield wall benefits anyway.
Yeah, or can bring a spear and a bow.
Exactly.
You can bring, for 9 points, you can bring a spear and a bow tin can.
And feel exactly the same as what this guy does, right? It provides extra dice. Yeah, you're not putting Fight 4 into it, but who cares at that point, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Now, on to, I believe, last infantry.
Second to last.
Oh, second last.
Last relevant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
The Guard of the Fountain Court. He is, for 10 points, a man Gondor infantry warrior. He brings movement 6, fight 4, 4+ shoot value, strength of 3, d6, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage of 3. He has heavy armor, dagger, and spear. So, you can replace your spear with a banner for 25 points, which is good. It's okay. It means you can't spear support with him, but it's banner on a bodyguard model, which is fantastic. And you can bring a shield for 1 point, which basically means 2 points more than a Citadel Guard, brings you plus 2 points of defense. And they're more or less identical as long as you're not swapping up the spear roll for the bow.
That's it. And they have a sword. I don't think these guys. Oh, they do have a sword. No,
They do have a sword, yeah.
So they can paint. But yes, Guard of the Fountain Court are a very interesting profile. They're very tough. D7 is, without needing to shield wall for it, is very neat. It's always tricky to fit them in, though, because they are quite pricey at 11 points for...
They start to feel really elite, and they don't hit like they're elite.
They don't hit like they're elite, and you need to bring other characters to buff them to fight like they're elite.
Yeah.
Like, this is... 11 points is more points than an elf warrior with a shield. It's 1 point more.
Yeah.
An elf warrior with a shield is 10. And, you get a point of defense, but you lose a point of fight, and you lose a point of courage compared to an elf. You gain bodyguard,
Well,
sure.
you gain bodyguard.
You gain bodyguard, but you're paying for it, and if a hero dies, and all this other stuff. There's you're paying for bodyguard a lot on this profile, I think, is what's actually really happening here. And it's a question of, is that worth it on your elite guy who's D? Because you want your D... The reason they're kind of awkward is you want D7 to be in the front to tank for your line and stick around the longest.
Yeah.
But you also have bodyguard on them, so you kind of want them to stick around till the late game to use their bodyguard so that they pass courage checks automatically. And also they come with a spear built into the profile, so you want them to use the spear support. So they've paid 11 points to have everything.
It's like the Gandalf problem, right?
Kind of, yes. You can fight and you can magic, you can spear support, you can bodyguard, you want to be in there early and you want to be in there late. You're kind of all over the place, and you're paying points for things you don't want to, and you have no choice not to. If you could choose to not bring them with a spear, that would be a lot more appealing.
Yeah.
Oh my god, if you could just bring these guys, 9 points base, get a shield on them, 10 points, D7 guy out front.
I think you'd see them so much.
They would be
They'd be absurdly powerful.
I don't think it would be like that crazy, but it'd be a fight 5 D7 front. It'd be a unique play style that currently doesn't exist anywhere else in the game.
Yeah.
Which I think would be really interesting. Now, I would actually really like if that became like an option. I don't think it will, but I would really like that one because it's such a unique. Because elves are D6 with fight 5, dwarves are D7 with fight 4. There's no high defense, high fight, low damage output army.
Yeah, and I would love to see something like that because look, if you really want to, you can still play like that.
You're just paying an extra point for it.
For no reason. Well, not for no reason. You have the flexibility if you want to slot that. Like, if you're D7 and you're going against a Strength 3 model, you may as well slot in that Gondor Warrior sword and board in front, right? Like, it's nice to have the flexibility and still poke fight 4, sometimes 5 into the mix as well.
That's it, yeah. It's like I said, it's not bad. You're just paying an extra couple of points that you don't want to.
Yeah, but with the access of, troops and then heroes who are troops plus 1 strength, he will always be relevant to bring that D7 into the line somewhere. Sometimes that D7 will be huge against heroes, sometimes it'll be huge against the troops. Being able to be flexible with that probably is fantastic in itself. I agree with you though. For 10 points, without the spear and with a shield would be fantastic.
Such a cool profile.
Yeah.
All right. Our final, the most depressing, dilapidating profile, the Osgiliath Veteran. For 8 points, you get a man Gondor infantry warrior with a move of 6, a fight value of 3, a strength of 3, a defense of 5, 1 attack, 1 wound, and courage 4. You get heavy armor and a sword, and you can bring a bow, a shield, and a spear. No banners for some reason. I guess we didn't have them in Osgiliath. And they are loyal to the captains. If this model is within 6 of either Boromir or Faramir, this model will receive a bonus of +1 to its fight value. This is cumulated with other fight value bonuses. Okay, so what this means is if you want to run a fight 5 army and you want to run all tin cans, you can run these guys instead of running rangers, and then you have all fight 5. Kind of neat in theory, but you lost shield wall. You're only 4+ to hit in shooting. You got extra courage, but you're also paying extra points for a bunch of stats and things that, again, dubious usefulness. Relevant. You're already courage 4 as an army anyway. You can bring a ton of bodyguard in the army. You have a lot of heroes that can, pass your standfasts for you. It's just a very confused profile. Again, it's kind of similar, not in the same way that the Guard of the Founded Court is. Like, the Guard of the Founded Court has a point. It just has too many points. This model has no point.
Well, I've said this to a couple of people before, and I might say this now. If the Boromir banner buff was 6-inch banner, 3-inch +1 fight, and this profile existed with the 6-inch bubble steel for both of those models, this model might be a bit better. A bit more used.
Yeah, that's the thing. It just has there's no reason to bring these.
Yeah.
That's the issue.
And I think if these guys, counted the Boromir banner as 6-inch all the time and got their own buff on top of it, so they could always be fight 5 within 6. That could be a really cool mechanic.
Or they just had shield wall.
Yeah.
Why did we get worse at fighting? I don't get it. Why did we lose shield wall?
So think of it it's like when you get so good at chess, you forget how to play chess. You know what I mean? That's what these guys have done just with shields. They got so good at fighting in Osgiliath because they're veterans that they just went, oh, I forgot I meant to use a shield. So
this guy's just got a bow, so I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, that's it, right?
He hit his head, that's it. He's got no helmet, that's -1 defense. It's actually D4.
It checks out, yeah. Well, that's why they have 4+ shoot that and they have stuff covering their eyes, right? Yeah.
Alright, Chris, tell me...
No. You're going to tell me about
I'm telling you about Why am I telling you about this?
Because I don't want to talk about this piece.
Okay. Alright, so the Gondor Battlecry Trebuchet. $80 for a beautiful...
$80?
Sorry, I was just looking at the mismold on the model that they show off.
Right down the middle? Yeah.
I couldn't look away. I was just thinking, I spent $80 on it. For 80 points, you get a Gondor siege engine with a crew, which has the Gondor infantry and man keywords, and warrior.
Yeah.
And one guy who is a siege veteran, siege veteran. You can become an engineer for 50 points, which, has anyone ever wanted to bring an engineer?
No.
Alright, moving on. Flaming ammunition for 15 points and additional crew for 7 points each. It has the indirect fire rule, so it fires using volley fire, which means if you can see it with someone else, he can shoot it.
Yep.
And it has a range of 12 to 96 inches.
Which basically means it's always in range unless you're within 12.
That's it, exactly. It has an area of effect, so if it scores a hit against a battlefield target, all models within 2 inches suffer 1 strength 5 hit and are knocked prone. The additional hit does not kill outright.
Yeah.
And finally, it has the Warbreaker rule. When it rolls to wound against a siege target, you may roll 2 dice and pick the highest. Which, not very relevant.
Well, if you're fighting something like a Mumuk, for example.
Mumuks are siege targets? Yeah. Yeah, okay. Mumuks, it's relevant.
So, little things like that. I can't imagine Smaug wouldn't be a siege target.
I would assume she is as well.
Actually flies, maybe not. I don't know.
Anyway.
Who knows?
Basically, it's... Okay. The siege engines, the lack of accuracy is always an issue, and you're paying 80 points to hit on a 4+. So every second turn you get a hit that maybe kills 2 guys, and then every 6 turns you get a direct hit and kill 5 and one-shot a hero.
Yeah.
So do you think that you're gonna every 4 or 5 shots, which is every 6 to 7 turns?
Yeah.
Do you want to kill a hero every 7 turns maybe, and then he rolls a fate and he doesn't die anyway?
The +1 on the might roll up to that 6 is really handy.
But then you have to roll the wound.
But that's
and then you might fail the wound roll, and you have no might to might that up. So there's too many rolls that you have to make for this to do something for the amount of points you're paying for it. Basically,
I think there's one too many rolls.
That's it. If you skipped one of those rolls, it'd be good. It'd be probably too good, but then you'd mean it could cost more points. But the problem is it just doesn't do enough as is.
Yeah, and I think siege weaponry is one of those weird things where if your opponent doesn't know how to play into siege weaponry well, this model is phenomenal, right? If your opponent just clumps up and marches...
It puts one goon 6 inches away from every clump, and then if you don't roll a direct hit, it goes on the one goon and hits one guy.
Yeah.
And kills 7 points every 2 turns.
But, like, to be honest with you, most players would probably not give you more than 3 things you could hit with a direct hit at a time anyway.
That's it.
And 80 points for sometimes 3 wounds being applied down, most of the time only 1 or 2. It just doesn't feel
And the other thing
good.
is just compare, if you bring an entire shooting, 12 to 15 bow shots, you spend 15 points. You bring this, you've spent 80.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem.
That's the
right?
thing.
Like, it just doesn't feel as good. That being said, this model could fill out. For example, if you got to like 670 points, just chuck one of these into this. That could work really well for you, right? But also, Gondor is an army with a bunch of minor heroes where you could have spent 80 points on
You could have brought Damrod and 6 archers.
Yeah,
Boom,
something
done.
like that. You know what I mean? Like, if minor heroes weren't in this list, this siege weaponry probably would be great.
Well-
if the other siege weapon in this list wasn't in the list, it would probably be good. But the problem is, we have the Avenger Bolt Thrower in the list, right? And the Avenger Bolt Thrower is phenomenal because it's 70 points and is a
Well,
strength...
50 base.
Well, it's a 70-point model, let's be honest here.
But yes, you'll usually get Swift Reload, unless you just
Yeah.
don't have the points for it.
It's a strength 7 crossbow with D6 shots. Basically, is how you need to look at this weapon. So this weapon does not have the instant death rule or anything like that on it. It is a 24-inch firing weapon. So literally think of this weapon like a move and shoot crossbow.
It's a crossbow.
right?
No, it's just a turbo crossbow.
Yeah. When it shoots D6 shots each turn. If you have the swift reload feat, you can re-roll, or you roll 2 dice and pick the highest, which is phenomenal. Which basically means you're always shooting.
3 to 4 shots is your average.
Yeah, basically, right? And if you bring 2 of these two of the bolt throws, you're probably getting about 8 shots a turn pretty consistently with these 2. It's pretty good, right?
Yes.
Now, your weapon upgrades on this profile is the Siege Captain, or Siege Veteran for 50.
Which you will not do.
Yep, the additional crew, or the Swift Reload, right? That's literally all you can bring. This model for 70 points is only 10 less than the Trebuchet.
Trebuchet.
But this weapon doesn't scatter.
And it'll reliably kill like 1 to 2 models a turn.
This model is strength 7 when it shoots.
3's to wound, everything that isn't a dwarf.
And you pump mortar trolls on 4+.
Yeah.
You pump most heroes on 4+.
Yeah.
You pump...
But you pump most heroes on 3s, because most heroes are D6.
No, you need
There's a lot of
you
so
need-
many
no,
heroes
They
who
need
wear
to be
t-shirts.
5 for you to pump on 3.
Oh, no, I forgot. That's how this game works. Yeah. I know a lot about Lord of the Rings. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I've played in the past 9 months.
Yeah. But, like, it's just tricky because, in my opinion, I don't think I could ever justify going 10 points more for the bolt thrower, from the bolt thrower to the trebuchet, and feeling good about it outside of, like, a 3k game you're playing on an 8x4. Like,
Yeah, there's
so few reasons.
You
to
can
do it.
engineer a reason to bring that trebuchet, and by that point, we've gone beyond reason.
Yeah, and I think the bolt thrower
You're a siege
always...
veteran captain at that point.
Yeah, literally. At that point, you're paying the 50 points anyway.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
I think the bolt thrower is just a really nice place down, and it's cheap. Like if
And it's tough.
if you really want to go cheaper on it, it's 50 points.
The neat thing about it is, compared to other normal shooting, is it's a lot harder to shoot back at.
Yeah. Well, just to guarantee that this thing, like, and even the guys manning it, because they're in the heavy armor, they're D5.
Yeah, you
Like,
put
they
them
are
behind
hard
the
to
crossbow, there's an in the way.
They're hard to put down, and even against elven crossbow shooting, like, yeah, put the bolt thrower in the way. As long as you have 2 guys still of your 3 crew that you start with, you're still fine.
That's it.
And if this thing shoots first, because you call a heroic shoot,
Dunk, 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 dunk.
Yeah,
You are winning those elves on 3s.
yeah, literally, right?
Yeah,
And
actually.
you're pumping them too. And I think this model is really scary when you combo this guy and like 7 or 8 archers into the list, right? Because your archers can do the half move and shoot jockeys. This thing moves that full 6 inches, sets up the turn after, and just lets loose. And even if you get 2 or 3 rounds of shooting with it, 2 or 3 rounds of shooting is about 11 or 12 shots worth of this thing pumping
Which
people.
hits 6 times, probably gets 4 wounds. You probably kill 4 models with it on average if you get 3 turns of shooting out of it. which is pretty good. And then people still have to fight the guys on it.
Exactly.
To stop it shooting, you have to start fighting them, and there's still
And
3
if
bodies.
you're a good enough player to force an angled combat where this thing gets to shoot at spear supports,
Ooh,
whoo,
neato.
you've hit the late game, my guy.
That's it.
Like, spear supports banners just disappear out from under your opponent for no apparent reason because this thing got a really nice deployment, or you called a really clutch march and marched the thing 9 inches around a corner. And then set up with your Madril and 4 guys that can body block anyone that comes to chase it down. And it's going to shoot anything that chases it down anyway. Like, the other thing that makes this model so good, and I've genuinely lost games against these things before, is in a mission with an objective that's in the middle of a corridor. Like, I played a game of domination where my opponent saw this juicy little spot where the central objective and one objective that they placed down was in a bubble, like in a nice big open circle.
Yep.
And it didn't matter which side my opponent picked for the roll-off. He could get his siege weapon into a spot that could shoot both of those unrestricted. And it was about a 15-inch bubble, literally like a little bubble of no terrain or anything significant was blocking, except for a tree. And I basically just had to say to my opponent, like, there's nothing I can do outside of walking through the ruins, because it was a Gondor to ruin style board, through the ruins around the long way and shut that thing down, or risk just getting shot for 4 turns, because I was playing a dwarf list at the time, and just weathering that absolute hell.
So 7's really good against dwarves.
Well, I had the shield wall D8 choice, but it still didn't feel nice.
Still really good. It's
right?
still way better than all other shooting.
Exactly, right? Like, and all they had to do was go, I'm going to shoot your crossbows back, because you have to move to come towards the objectives anyway.
Yep, and then your crossbows are...
Exactly. And it just felt like this thing would get 2 turns of shooting for free, no matter what I did to it, unless I walked the wrong way, and dwarves walking the wrong way is not...
Is dwarves walking the wrong way?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Alright, and that's all the profiles, Chris. Let's talk real quick about allies and then jump into the list.
Yes.
So what are our allies? Well, really, it's kind of just Rohan and Fiefdoms in terms of green. There's a bunch of yellows. I don't think there's anything particularly interesting in them that Gondor doesn't have. I guess Guahir.
Guahir's a good yellow.
Guahir, Saruman, like we talked about a couple like that you can bring in some interesting stuff.
I mean, Gondor is yellow with so many different...
Yeah, there's a lot of
armies.
stuff you can bring. It's a question of what of it actually brings value.
Yeah, and I think that's the tricky part, right? Like, I've seen some nice, cute little allies being thrown around with things like a Guahir, Treebeards, like all those sort of big gribbly
Bringing in
monsters
big,
sort of things.
big monsters, then you're lacking as a list.
Yeah, I've also seen people throw in, like, Aragon into just a Rohan list. Because King Elessar just being a mighty hero and the banner.
And you, the fact is, I thought about doing. I thought it'd be cool to do like Fellowship Aragon riding around with Theoden, cool stuff. And then I was like, wait, I should just pay the extra points and be a banner. It's so much better.
Exactly, right? And I think that, like, you can basically say, well, this is a better gambling. Like, it's just
Short, yeah.
like, that's the way you can feature Aragon.
It's a better named character, yeah.
Yeah,
better
because
named
gambling doesn't have to bring, like, gambling gets restricted because he's a really low fight model who's forced into holding a banner that's still only a 3-inch banner.
Yes.
And giving points a might back compared to just being a mighty hero from the game start.
Yep.
Like, Aragon can do that much
And
better.
Cav armies love big banners.
Exactly, right? And Cav armies love move-offs every turn, and Cav armies love a whole bunch of other things that Aragon can just always guarantee the access of you getting. Even if it's not Aragon calling it all the time, which I don't think Aragon should be the one that always calls it.
But, yeah.
The fact that there's always the accessibility of might on the table because of Aragon makes him a phenomenal ally. And I think the unfortunate part is Elessar functions significantly better as an ally to other armies than he does in a Gondor list in isolation.
Yeah, that's a fair call. So, Chris, tell us about your list for Gandalf and crew.
Yeah, so this is my like themed Defending of the Wall style list. So it's got Gandalf on a horse, 5 Citadel Guard who have the spear, 4 Spear and Shield Warriors of Minas Tirith, 1 Spear Shield Banner Warriors of Minas Tirith, 5 Warriors of Minas Tirith with Spear and Bow. I've then got Denethor, who is leading literally an identical warband.
Yep.
And then I've got Irolas leading 6 Citadel Guard, 2 Spears, Spear Shield Warriors of Minas Tirith and 2 Spear Bow Warriors of Minas Tirith. It's 6 points of might, 38 models, 12 bows, and 750 points. Now, something I will just quickly say, every single model outside of the heroes has a spear in this list. It means I have any combination of D5, 6, or 7 I can throw into the line against my opponent. I think this is a really, really, really cheeky way to play the list. And I think this has access to a whole bunch of little tricks. Now, I think Rangers could probably fill this army really well as well.
Don't worry, I wrote the list already, basically. when we get to the others.
This list has Gandalf, which means you can really force a lot of really clutch fighting. With Gandalf throwing magic down onto heroes, which buys time for your warriors, which means your warriors can just slowly grind away with that hopeful D6, sometimes even D7 if you can afford to.
This list wants to go long, both of you break, everyone starts running away, Gandalf starts knocking heroes over so they can't make standfasts happen.
And Citadel Guard and Irolas stay for the late game.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Your front line will die, none of them have bodyguard. You've got your 15 bodyguard models or something ridiculous.
16, 17.
You got your 16, 17 bodyguard models and you just sit there laughing.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is Denethor does need to be the leader because I don't have Aleksa on the list. Unfortunately, that is just how it plays. But, I mean, Gandalf not being tethered down to the wound leader mechanic probably means you can play a more aggressive.
You can play a more aggressive Gandalf.
And that's probably a good thing. And I think you'd want to plant Gandalf on one corner and Denethor and Irolas very close, if not literally next to each other, on the other side of your battle line. And just force your opponent to pick the high damage spellcaster that can slingshot over the top to help keep Denethor safe. Or targeting the leader.
That's it.
Yeah.
Solid. Alright, I've got this one. So, to the king, we've got Aragon, King Elessar with 2 Citadel Guard, 3 Knights of Minas Tirith with Shield, 4 Rangers of Gondor Spear, and 8 Warriors of Minas Tirith with Shield. Then we've got Hurin the Tall on Horse with 3 Citadel Guard, 3 Rangers of Gondor with Spears, and 6 Warriors of Minas Tirith. And finally, Irolas, Captain of the Guard with 2 Citadel Guard, 3 Rangers of Gondor with Spears, 1 Warrior of Minas Tirith with Spear, and 6 Warriors of Minas Tirith with Shield. I had 8 points left, so I could not have a third Citadel Guard in Irolas' warband, and it made me very upset. But we have 9 actually infinite might, 44 models, 10 bows, and 750 points. So Aragon and a lot of bodies.
Yeah.
And 2 decent heroes. It's solid, I think. I was very happy with, I sat down to write an Aragon list. I was like, I haven't written an Aragon list, ever. Yeah. And I was like, alright, I'll just click Aragon, Hurin, Irolas. I hope the warbands fill out. They filled out perfectly. I was like, oh, that was easy.
This just works, yeah. Well, I think this list I really like because you have such a high model count, because you've ignored the banners, which Aragon's there for you. Yeah, you lose VP sometimes, but oh well.
I'll kill that banner. It'll be fine.
And that's the thing. It's not like you lose it for free no matter what. You can still win that points back later in the game. It just means that your opponent can sit back early game. But, this list has so much punch behind it because both of your big mounted heroes can do a lot of legwork with the amount of dice they both get to roll. Both of these heroes roll 5 dice on the charge. Mm-hmm. If they're within the ranges of each other. But you 5 dice on the charge.
So Hurin and Aragon play together. Irolas sits somewhere being the loser side. The losing gracefully side of the flank and hoping Aragon and Hurin cut through fast enough to win the game. That's the way you play it.
Something I am a little bit surprised that you've done here is bring Irolas instead of Ingold. I'm surprised you didn't try to bring the shield wall standstill.
March guy. I mean, I know Aragon can do it too, but I just like Irolas as well.
Yeah, that's fair.
And also, there's not enough shields. There's not really enough shields for it to be super effective. And yeah, I mean, you're right. Ingold could be another option. He is 10 points more. He's 75.
No, they're both 65. The same. Yeah.
So you could definitely swap Ingold to Irolas. You could swap to Madril as well. All 3 are perfectly fine options. I just like Irolas. That's it. I just really like Irolas' profile and model and all of that. I think. What else could you change? I think that's about it. I think having a few knights is nice to have. You could maybe bring a couple of Citadel Guard, or you could drop a couple of knights and bring Beregond. You could drop the 3 knights, switch them to Beregond. That'd be a good option.
Yeah, something little like that. I think, but this list functions really well because it's that jack of all trades list, right? There's nothing in this list that wouldn't be able to do the role that you've brought it in for. It may not have the same dedicated punching power as a Rohan style list, but it definitely can hold its own in those battle lines. And in the late game, where Elessar gets to really turn up, and Hurin, who, if he can make it into the late game with 1 or 2 points of might left in the tank, like, suddenly you get unleashed in such
extremely reliable, runs into a hero, calls strike, and just
deletes them, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Especially if they're heroes run out of might themselves.
And Aragon's a great character to force people to run out of might.
Exactly. Because a lot of people make the wrong choice, in my opinion, to match move-offs against mighty heroes, and or even worse, just when a mighty hero calls the move-off for the sake of moving off. Like, it's really easy for Aragons to use their might in a silly way, but it's even easier to hear the Aragon call's might and decide that you have to do something back. And I think Aragon is just, in this type of list with this many models, Aragon just works.
That's it. That was my general thought. And finally, I also bring you a Boromir with Fiefdoms list. So we get allies and Boromir. So I'm actually, again, really happy with this. I spent a lot of time thinking about different Fiefdoms Boromir lists over time, and this is probably the one I'm most happy with. So Boromir with Banner of the White Tower and Horse. He doesn't have a shield because I couldn't quite figure the points out. You could probably find the points for a shield. It's probably better that way. But also, I've got 4 Knights of Minas Tirith, 4 Rangers of Gondor with Spear, and 4 Warriors of Minas Tirith with Shield. So the trick to me with this and making this work is to not worry too much about combining the sides. Boromir Banner affects both sides equally. Just play the Fiefdom side list as a Fiefdoms list, and the Gondor side are objective sitters and a little bit of cav to run in with Boromir.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we've got Falling the Fat on Horse. Of course, no list is, you can't have a list without Falling the Fat. 6 Axemen of Lothar, 9 Men-at-Arms of Dol Amroth, and then a Captain of Dol Amroth. I think he's on Horse. Let me just double check. I think he has kit. I think he's full kit.
But either way, he's bringing 4 Axemen, 2 Blackroot Vale Archers, and 6 Men-at-Arms as well. You've got 15 pikes.
Yeah, he's full kit. Armored Horse Lance on the captain. So you've got a solid amount of Axemen, a solid amount of Men-at-Arms. They're a pretty good punch. So Boromir...
They're not pretty good. They're phenomenal.
They're phenomenal punch, and fight 5 from Boromir. So you're playing this semi-similarly to how you would normally a Fiefdoms list, where you kind of put Boromir center mass of your pike block, but because you've got a 6-inch pike block, you can kind of extend it further.
Or just slam Boromir into the side if there's an opening.
To be honest, you can slam Boromir into the side with the Knights and then have just one side be your pike block.
Exactly.
You don't need to pike block on both sides like you do with Imrahil. Like, Boromir can play on the left flank of your pike block and get most of it anyway.
Exactly. And if you angle your pikes up towards the Boromir on that, like, 40
you can get, like,
angle,
you could get, like,
you'll get everything.
Yes, you could just, to the right of Boromir, get 8 to 9 fights of fight 5.
Which is
and
absurd.
Also, because he targets all Gondor, if he targets an Axeman, where Imrahil wouldn't give an Axeman fight 5, he does give the Axeman fight 5.
Exactly.
So if you just touch your Axeman and you don't get your pikes, you're still on that fight 5.
Yeah. And what do Axemen do really well? They
kill people.
Shit. Yeah, exactly.
They cut through.
Reroll once to wound, strength 4, 2-handing. Like, you get all the nice things coming through if you choose to use the axe as the 2-hand +1.
And you have that versatility. Again, we talked about it in the Fiefdoms episode. Axemen are extremely versatile. This list, I think, lets you unlock that potential from them, give you some cheap high impact cavalry that Fiefdoms desperately lacks, and quite frankly, in a lot of games these will be just Knights of Dol Amroth.
They'll function identically.
Well, if they're not if Knights of Dol Amroth are playing the flank like you kind of want Cav to do, they're not +1 fight.
They're not +1 fight. Or your pike block's not fight 5.
That's
which is the mistake.
And Boromir with the 6-inch banner can do both in a way Imrahil can't. And obviously you're paying a premium for it. He's an extra 60 points on Imrahil. Imrahil's 160. Yeah, so extra 55 points. You're paying a premium on it, so you got to use it.
Yeah.
But you're also getting the 6 might and the fight 7 and all those other upsides. But I think it's a really interesting way to play a 50s Gondor list, and I'm actually like super. I was like, all right, this sounds like, oh, this is pretty sick.
Yeah.
The only like kind of downside, low bow count, only 6.
In this type of list, you don't need.
That's it. It's something to think about.
If your bow count went to 12, would you win the shoot-offs? Probably not still.
It would depend. But I agree. I don't think it's an issue, but it's just something to be cognizant of running the list. Yeah. You could honestly just drop like the 2 Blackroot Vale Archers, mess around, bring some. They're just cheap bodies, and they're the cheapest models in Fiefdoms, so it just worked out to gain to 750.
Well, I mean, even if you swap 2 Blackroot Vales for a shield and a guy.
That's it. That's what I'm saying. You could just go shield and a guy. You could even go like a knight on foot if you want, depending on points.
Like, bringing Boromir with a shield is probably the better choice.
It is. I was like, I got to 745 and I was like, oh, I can't. This is too much. I know I can make this work, but I'm not going to. I got to 755 and I was like, I'm just going to click the shield button off on Battlescribe and put the list in and then tell you to fix it later. You can fix it. That's your homework. Fix this list.
Fix this list.
Put it in the comments. Fix. Thank you. But yeah, and 11 might is nothing to scoff at, right?
Yeah.
Like Forlong's got that 3 might. He's got that high impact. You've got a lot of damage in this list compared to a normal Gondor list.
Definitely.
This is not going to last as long as a normal Gondor list as well. It's a defense 5 heavy list.
It's fragile. Yeah.
It's much more fragile. You got to hit hard. You got to use that fight advantage. You got to use the pikes. It's a much more difficult to play Boromir list than just a normal tin can plus banners list would be. But also that's why it's fun.
Unlike most other Gondor lists, Elven shooting terrifies you, I think, in this list. Because you have so much D5 that can just get shredded for no reason.
Yeah, you got 4 guys that stand up front, and once they're gone, or if they roll some good in the ways, you're
just stuck.
You're in the piss. On the upside, though, you don't care about crossbows because you're not wasting any points of defense. So
that's true.
It's pure upside.
There we go. Yeah.
That's it. You always got to look on the bright side.
Only play against Isengard. There you go.
Corsairs would be a really good matchup. This list would roll Corsairs. It's not.
I actually think it would. Yeah.
This list, you'd be like, oh, Corsairs, you shouldn't have. Chris has come early. I'm winning you on 3s, rerolling 1s. Bye bye, buddy.
The only downside is if those Corsairs get a good round of shooting when they're throwing weapons.
That's true. But you got 4 guys. Put them out front. Charge your knights in or something. Sack the knights.
Yeah. No, I do really like this list though. Yeah. Anyway, let's jump into our final thoughts.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So Gondor. What do we think, Chris?
I think Gondor is good. I think it just gets a bad rap from feeling very vanilla.
I think you can do a lot of... Gondor is very interesting from a list building point of view. I think how it will play will always be roughly vanilla in some regard, right? It's never going to be, like the flashiest army. It's never going to make turbo crazy plays beyond, maybe some Gandalf wizard stuff. But even then, other wizards have more exciting plays they can make.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Necromancer or Saruman, they're flashier, more outputting wizards. He's more of a support plus damage wizard.
Yes. And I think Gondor as a whole can play almost any playstyle quite well.
Minus monster-related stuff.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Within what they have access to, they can play any part of that field really well. I think the one thing that I would say is you lack mounted choices that make an impact.
You just have knights.
Ways.
Citadel Guard, again, like we talked about, you bring Beregond instead of 2 of them. You bring 1 maybe.
And not having a war spear instead of a normal spear on them just hurts to bring a horse for 7 points. I think if you're going to bring a horse, you always bring that 18 with a bow.
They're like the same points as a bloody Mirkwood Knight. Mirkwood Knights are insane.
Relative to the difference, they're fantastic.
Mirkwood Knights are just generally insane, but you just look at that and you're like, man, that's Mirkwood Knight 10 out of 10 every day. Citadel Guard on a horse with a spear. Blech.
I mean, even if you compare with a bodyguard stat, would you rather bring a Royal Guard with throwing spear? Or would you rather bring...
Royal Guard with throwing spear is like 17
points, God. Same points.
And they're fight 5 in the charge.
Yeah, and strength 4 on the charge, and have a throwing weapon on the charge.
Yeah.
And a d6.
Yeah, that's much better.
And they cool.
Outriders are also just better as well than Rohan. But to be fair, Rohan is the man. Rohan can be better.
Is the cavalry list.
So that's fair enough. But even Mirkwood is not a cavalry list, and their cavalry is just better than this.
Yes.
In terms of shoe and cav. In terms of non-lance cav.
Yeah.
That's the comparison point.
That is fair. I feel like this has been a very rambly episode.
It's been fun though.
It's been a fun one. I think Gondor definitely can turn up, and I've seen Gondor win plenty of events in the past, and I think it will continue to still win events. I just find that the gameplay can get stale quickly because your troops will feel very wet noodly.
The list building is really fun, and then you go to play the game, and 2/3 of the game it's my Gondor warrior again.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna bring Beregond and Anborn, all these cool characters, and then I have 30 warriors in this. Oh my god, not again!
I'm gonna shield, and I'm gonna shield. Oh, I have a spear sport. I'm gonna
make 2 strength 3 attacks on 6s. No.
Look at that, 2 5s. Shame. Okay.
If I had an axeman, you'd be dead.
Yeah. Anyway.
Alright, well, moving on. I'm going back to Fiefdoms.
Alrighty. Well, if you have made it through this, 2
hours?
Hour slog?
It's been great. We've been on a great pace, thank you. We covered 30 profiles.
Actually, tell you what, it's not been bad at all. I'll give you that.
It's no serpent horde.
Look, I don't think anything's a serpent horde, right? Look, let's not talk about Mordor. That's going to make me anxiety.
This is
stress.
Much fewer profiles than Isengard.
That's true, but just less to unpacking each profile, I think.
No, there's just fewer profiles than Isengard.
Yeah.
Because Isengard is like 3 army lists.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
But yeah.
But yes, if you have made it through, like I said, thank you so much. Consider things like a like or a subscribe. We're not trying to make money off of this. We're not trying to do any of that sort of stuff. It just will help keep you guys informed of when videos come out and keep us informed of whether we're doing the right thing content-wise.
And we'll keep our regularly scheduled content coming.
As mentioned at the start of the episode, we are going to schedule our next recording to be released on the...
Let's say sometime in...
No, on the...
30th of August.
What are you doing saying a date? No.
That's a month from now.
No.
No, it's 30th of August. It's set. We're done. All right, thank you all for listening. Have a good one.
Let's not.